Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll call the September 23rd, 2025 Planning Board to order. Let's see, we'll note that Jody Wright is not present. The first order of business will be the approval of the minutes from the August 26th meeting.
Motion to approve the August 26 minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Lee, I'm assuming you are. You made all right. All right. First case is consider a recommendation on petition R2511 Long Creek Retail, request by TA&S Enterprises of NC.
Actually, disclosure.
You're right. My fault. I got ahead of us. We have two speakers signed up. Sorry, Brian. The first one will be Janet Webb. You want to come to the podium, you could state your name, and you will have 3 minutes once we get the timer started.
I'll start it once you.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
Good evening, Planning Board members and others present tonight. I'm Janet Webb, and I live in Ransom Pasture. Do you know where that is? It's a residential. It's zoned residential, and it's exactly what it has been until Greenfield Park began developing in the 1920s through 2016, with Carol Paver's home being built on Hillcrest Drive across from the proposed Home to Hilton Hotel. Greenfield Park is a stable community with long-term residents, and I live on Joyce Avenue in the 250 feet distance of the proposed hotel for the last 27 years. Lovely neighborhood. I've got the staff report. I'm reading from that, so you've probably seen or heard this before. And it's about the rezoning of 2.6 acres plus or minus located at 13830 Statesville Road from corporate business and general residential to highway commercial, with conditions to be approved for a 5-story, 70-foot tall hotel to be built adjacent to the current Best Western Hotel. Three ordinances are not in compliant. And number one is the hotel separation. Article 9.45.1 states a hotel must be separated by at least 250 feet from the hotel building to the nearest residential property. The measurement is actually only 100.4 feet. The applicant of this rezoning request is asking for egregious modifications to ignore the Huntersville zoning ordinances, which will adversely impact our neighborhood. Staff does not support this. Number two, hotel separation based on height. Article 9.45.2a of the zoning ordinance requires that a hotel be separated by a distance no less than 3 times the height of the proposed structure closest to the common lot line of the adjoining residential zone, but in no case less than 100 feet. The proposed hotel is 70 feet, which would require a 210 feet separation. The applicant is requesting to allow the hotel to be only 100.4 feet from the nearest residential zone. Staff does not support this. The hotel height, Article 9.45.3 of the zoning ordinance states that hotels may exceed the permitted height of the district only if it is subject to a conditional rezoning. All the requirements of Article 9.45.2 are met, and it does not exceed 6 stories. The Highway Commercial District building type has a height limit of 36 feet. The applicant is requesting a building height of 70 feet, made up to 5 stories. Staff is not in support of this modification. These are the facts defined by Huntersville zoning ordinances and report. Who has the power to abide by these ordinances? You sit on the planning board, and you do have the power to make decisions, as well as the Huntersville Town Commissioners. As you make your decisions, base them on the facts defined in the ordinances, not what you think.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Carol Paver. Just state your name, and you will have 3 minutes as well.
Okay, hi, I'm Carol Paver. Thank you for giving me 3 minutes. I live at 502 Hillcrest Drive. I strongly oppose this, I have to read it, sorry. I strongly oppose the proposed rezoning of the residential home sites on Hillcrest Drive within the Greenfield Park neighborhood. Disregarding established city ordinances sets a dangerous precedent that threatens the long-term safety of our community, strains infrastructure, and undermines the well-being of residents. Ignoring the clear risks and irreversible harm to both our neighborhood and its people is unacceptable. I urge those responsible for voting on this matter to personally visit the site. That would be monumental if anyone voting or talking about it would come visit the site and view the area from the perspective of those who live here. It's crucial to fully understand the potential negative impact on property values and overall quality of life rather than on focusing solely on short-term economic benefits, such as increased tax revenue. Furthermore, to date, I don't know if this is possible, but we have not been presented with any independent third-party impact assessment to adequately evaluate the consequences of this potential rezoning. This decision will have enduring and irreversible consequences on our neighborhood. I urge you to consider these impacts and act in the best interest of the community that you serve. Thanks for letting me stumble through.
Thank you. And that's all of the public comments, so we'll move on to the first item. This is consider a recommendation on petition R2511 Long Creek Retail, a request by TA&S Enterprises of NC to rezone 4.396 acres from highway commercial conditional district to highway commercial conditional district and rural. And
Jay, before you go on, I'd like to disclose that my firm represents the adjoining property owner, the Cathy's, but it will not affect my decision on this.
the adjoining property owners of the,
To the north.
oh, okay. Does anybody have a question for Scott regarding that?
Nope.
Okay, we'll continue on.
All righty. Go ahead and enter our staff report to the record. Just quick note that there have been no changes to the plan since the public hearing, so I will be brief and then turn it over to the applicant and their team. As Mr. Henson said, this is a conditional district rezoning of about 4 acres down on the corner of Mount Holly, Huntersville, and Beatties Ford Road. Back in 2008, the site was originally zoned from rural to highway commercial conditional district for a drugstore with some outbuildings. And it's been that way since 2008. You can see the context map here, located down that northeast corner of Beatties Ford Road in Mount Holly, Huntersville. To the west of there, you've got another approved plan for some commercial, and then south of Beatties or Mount Holly, Huntersville is the city of Charlotte. You see the shopping center there with the Food Lion, and on the southeast corner, there's going to be some construction as well. To the north, we've got the Oak Grove Hill Farm subdivision that's under construction, as well as some other projects in the area. This is the original site plan from 2008. You can see it was for a pharmacy. I believe it was a Rite Aid at the time. Here's a current site plan, is just for a C-store. The parcel to the north will no longer be part of this. It will drop back to its original base zoning of rural. As part of this application, they are requesting some modifications. The largest modification is for impacting the 30-foot buffers. Buffers are supposed to be untouched, but in this case, due to grading, they're asking for that modification. Staff has some concerns with the slopes and the ability to replant, as well as the ability to have a connection back up to the north if that parcel were to come back in for our development. Again, just some more context on the buffer impacts, and you can see the steep slopes that are going to be in that area. One thing that's noted on the plan is they are not providing a full side path along their frontage. They would need to ask for an additional modification. Again, that hasn't been turned in yet, but that would be needed to not extend the side path across their whole property. Here are the elevations for the proposed buildings. They've gone with some very good architecture. Don't have any comments against that. I think they did a great job here. in relation to how does this plan fit into the Huntersville 2040 plan. It's a great spot for this use, so it's in support with Land Use Policy 5.1, not supported for, and several items there listed as well. The biggest thing is if you look at the small area plan, the 2040 plan, this is supposed to be an urban village. Those things are supposed to be connected. This property and this project is isolated. We do have concerns about its ability to connect to the north. So that all being said, staff is not in favor of this at this time. If they were to make some changes to the plans, we could be in support, but that's where we stand today, and I'm here if you have any questions for me. If not, the applicant's here as well.
Thank you. Questions for staff? Go ahead, Michael.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the grading? and,
Sure.
The nature of the issue?
Absolutely. Let me see if I can find that grading plan. This is probably a great site. You can see, as this is on the northern part of the parcel, there's a nice hill right here that kind of slopes back down to their driveway, a very steep slope. When you look at tying in projects, when you set the new grading for the proposed site, you do have to look at off-site impacts. In this case, the elevation that this driveway is going to be at, it will be very difficult for this neighbor to tie in along this adjacent parcel right there. So you do have to look at how, when you grade this site, how does it affect the next site and how can it get developed as well? Right now, they're proposing a retaining wall all along here. So you would have to break through that retaining wall and have lots of grading back in this area just to be able to tie in those driveways, which then yields less developability area for the parcel to the north.
So it's not that they can't develop it, but it simply takes extra effort on the,
It makes it
the
a lot
abutting
harder to
property
develop
owners to
that
do it.
one, correct.
okay, thanks.
So your suggestion would be to raise the grade of the convenience store, the entire lot? Is that your solution? Is that what you're thinking?
I am not an engineer.
Yeah.
And I don't want to play one on TV.
Yeah.
But there are things you can do to look at to manipulate the earth to make it less impactful or a better situation, kind of a middle ground between the two parcels.
I'll ask the,
Sure.
On that subject, though, how do you determine the onus of the grading? Would not the property to the north have more ownership because they own more of the slope or whatever if they went to develop that? I mean, how do you put the onus all on the current applicant?
Good planning and engineering practices. We've been, in the past, we have been at a fault only reviewing the applicants and not really looking far enough off-site, and so there could be negative impacts on those properties. There are several cases where we've been challenged with that. So we have, under my regime, taken it under consideration to look at off-site impacts or potential future off-site impacts to try to mitigate those to a reasonable level. And again, that's just professional judgment.
But in this case, the crown is on the, I'm sorry. Oh, in this case, the crown is on the property to the north, right?
Correct.
They could shave off, I don't know how many topo lines that is. That's like 5 lines to get to the same grade as the back of this lot.
There's more than that, because remember, you've got a retaining wall that extends down along here.
Right there, okay,
So that's
okay.
quite a bit more.
And is this property to the north the same property that was included in the last application?
It is included in this application. You can see right here, this is just going back to rural.
Oh, it's going back to rural.
Correct.
It's not being developed.
Right, they had to join this because we're not allowed to downzone properties. So they had to join in and ask to go back to rural.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Because I'm just trying to muddle through the differences because when it first came to the planning board last, whenever that was, November, planning staff recommend against it because of this connectivity. The time it got to the town board, staff recommended for it because the connectivity issues had been addressed.
Correct. If you look back at the original plan here from 2008, you can see there's a public street back in this area. When this came back to us last year, there was some challenges with the ability of that project to deliver that public street. They ultimately chose to provide that, which allowed the staff to be in support of this project.
Okay, so that public street has been approved and is on the books.
This would go away. This public street,
Oh.
this whole parcel right here
Right.
goes away back to rural.
Oh, that's on the new parcel.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. So this kind of just kind of goes like that right now. So this parcel to the north all goes away, street goes away, back to rural.
Connectivity goes away.
Yep.
Okay, okay.
Correct.
All right, thank
Part
you.
of our challenge today.
Wasn't there another issue back in November about tree save and with the slope of the lot, they were having to take out so many trees?
Correct, and we still have that issue today. We're waiting for the applicant to give us updated information.
Sorry, I went from off mute to on mute. Yeah, appreciate it.
So when you're talking about development of the larger site, I'm just looking at the current zoning map. You've got the neighborhood residential parcel to the north,
Correct?
this parcel that's going to be reverted back to just rural, and then the rural parcel
Correct.
existing to the north, right? So that's kind of what, in an ideal world, that's kind of our development sphere there. Okay, so we're just trying to preserve the ability to develop that as a larger parcel by this future-looking, I guess.
And we'd be fine if this parcel were to develop, but we want them to address the grading issues, the connectivity issues, and again, the tree issues.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have a question, Prince?
On connectivity,
Yes, sir.
I know there's the DR Horton, I believe, project, and thank you. And have they stubbed in the road on the south side of their project?
Right, that's right there.
Yep, and then I think, on, again, disclosure, we represent the Cathys. I think there's a connectivity,
That's that parcel right there.
yep, and I think there's connectivity through there.
Correct. Well, it would tie into this property right here. So
Correct.
just south of the Cathy property.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Michael?
Yeah, just trying to align what we're doing at the town level with the state, because usually the state building code would normally dictate what's required in grading. How do what we're doing align with what the state building code will call for when it comes to grading?
There's no issue with state building code and grading. State building code's due to the structure and how it's occupied.
No, specifically it says that the grading should be done to avoid creating hazards and adverse effects. Grading in isolated areas which would not damage the public or negatively affect the neighbors. So they go into a great deal of detail about what grading is how it's to be considered. And it's a whole section
Yeah.
at the state level.
I would think the context may be, don't create something that would be negative, but the connectivity, not being able to connect this is probably a local zoning code negative issue, rather than like if you were to create something that would maybe wash onto somebody else's property.
That would be I think that would be a fair assessment. So if you were to grade this in the water, then change direction, it would cause a flooding condition downstream or negatively affecting your neighboring parcel. That could be considered in that context.
But you also made reference to a bit of a policy change by making reference to it under your regime. So under the prior regime, how was it considered?
We looked at it very isolated. We made sure the project before us was kept whole, but we did not really look how it could have possibly affected the developability of the parcels next door. Again, we've run into some situations where some neighbors came to us saying that I can't develop as much of my land now because of where that road was set. We're just trying to be very conscientious as to where those roads are set elevation-wise to not necessarily maximize, but create a good situation for the public. Because you do have to consider slopes of streets. There are maximum pitches, ADA accessibility, those types of things. So we have to kind of look a little bit off-site.
So just kind of reflecting again on kind of Chris's initial question, that is, then what's the recommendation back to the, to the property owner? What do they do to resolve this?
Again, I would just ask that their engineers takes a look at that.
So we don't
Works
have,
with our engineer and try to find there's a middle ground right there.
so we don't have a firm recommendation back to them in terms of how to resolve.
No, it's not our job to do their work. We tell them that they need to improve the situation, but it's not our job to do the analysis, to do the cut and fill, those types of things.
let's just play the scenario. If these two properties were owned separately, would we still basically penalize the applicant because of the property behind them was at a higher grade and didn't offer the opportunity to someday have connectivity to a road other than Beatty's Fork Road?
We always analyze and see where connectivity makes sense. It makes sense to go to the north here, go back to the west. There's a steep slope down to a protected creek. Obviously, we're not going to connect that creek just to the north if there's going to be a connection, hopefully with the public street at some point in time. It makes sense to connect to the north. We can't control all situations, but that's our professional recommendation, that stub should go to the north. And they do make bulldozers, so
Okay.
we have to tie them in somehow.
Part of the solution here, I guess, but yeah, it just seems to me you're offsite on somebody else's property in theory.
Very normal for a project to grade offsite. So, and now we're not asking them to grade offsite. What we're saying is, consider your design and how it may affect the neighbors to the north, and how do we get that connection to work?
So let's just cut to the chase, I guess. If they were to dig to the retaining wall and drop down a road out the side of their building that's, however many feet lower, into a bank of the adjoining property to the north that, someday may be graded down to that same level, would that satisfy the?
Yeah, I mean, in my limited knowledge of grading, we'd probably want to raise this area up just a skosh, so it, in fact, doesn't affect that to the north as much, that's all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's either.
Because then, again, to point it out, you can only have this at a certain slope going back into the street, the driveway, so it's this game.
Right, okay.
And that's what the engineers, that's what they've got, their AutoCAD and their models, they can raise this up and affect, those effects are rippled throughout the site, so you have to tie back in other places.
Okay.
It is a challenging site. There's no doubt about it. And we've known about it since 2008. It was a challenge then, and it's going to be a challenge today. It'll be a challenge until someone gets out there and starts, grading the site.
Was there ever a profile submitted to show, to say, hey,
cross-section?
this can't work, or a centerline profile to show that
I
by
have
doing this, the grades exceed a certain? Was
the
that ever
applicant's
submitted?
engineers here. I have not seen that. That does not mean that.
Just a way to say, put this to bed, say you can't do it, or it won't work safely, or it
And again,
can
I
work.
have not seen that, but our engineers could be more than happy to meet with the applicant's engineers.
Okay. Further questions for staff before we have the applicant come up?
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Where's the site plan?
If you all could,
Yes, sir.
if you all could state your name, and once you're finished with that, we'll start the clock. You'll have 15 minutes for your presentation, but we'll wait till you introduce everybody if you would like.
Well, good evening, everybody, and good evening, board members. My name is Jeff Maflai. I'm the developer. I'm the president of TANS Enterprises. We have exclusive development agreement with Circle K for the Charlotte market. We're being rewarded last year being franchisee of the year. I've been honored to be appointed to Circle K Advisory Board for 2 years term. We have tremendous experience in what we do, and we didn't get this exclusivity out of nowhere because we deserve it. We developed Class A stores, we developed beautiful stores, and we're proud of what we do. On this challenged site, there is about 35 feet drop between my property and the neighbor's property. Staff recommended that we needed to grade into the neighbor's property. And the neighbor is not cooperative, will not allow us to grade into his land, and if we do, it has to go about 50 to 60 feet deep into his property to achieve the grade required for road safety, which means we will be knocking out his house almost, where family members live there. And if we have to just grade for the road, we'll create a valley from both sides of his property. It's undoable at this level. We have decided to go ahead and put the wall to contain slope and retain the dirt in its place, but we're willing to deed into our record, or to the land record, an easement that gives cross access to the neighbor in the north and where we will also take out the retaining wall when they are grading, and we'll give them access to grade. The only way to take that crown out is to grade it and push the dirt elsewhere where it is needed. For us to come in and try to raise our side, it's undoable. We are already at the street grade. There is no way we can raise ours. If we raise it, it will be challenged to get in and out from Beatty'sford Road and from Mount Holly Hammersville Road. So there is no way to raise our land. There is no way to grade into the neighbor's land, but we're willing to put in the record a cross-access easement with a commitment to remove the wall when the neighbor is required to develop his land. The staff always can ask for connectivity, and I think connectivity works in progress, not in reverse. Now they're requiring connectivity from a site that doesn't exist to a site that we're ready to break ground tomorrow. I think the process should be we create the site, we develop it, we give the easement, and the next person comes and develop, they connect to the same and keep on going. But to put us and penalize us because the neighbors is not cooperative or the nature of the land is not allowed, I think that's not a good position. The staff have supported it in the past because of all that interconnectivity, but they still can continue to support it for future developments. When this or other parcels come for rezoning, they can always enforce the same connectivity. That's all what I wanted to say. As far as tree save, in the past, when we have two lots together, we would be right under 20% tree save. But now, since the math changes and since we're only doing our site, we are at 50% specimen tree savings. So we meet the requirement when it comes to tree savings at 50%. We have 6 trees, we're gonna save 3 and remove 3 just due to grading requirements.
Okay, we have any questions at the moment?
So going back to in November 2024, when it came before us, I'm guessing, because I know at that time, the final plan did show connectivity?
Yes, and we still will be committing to connectivity and deed it to the land record, cross-access easement and removal of the retaining wall.
And I think beyond just connectivity, it actually showed the road being built through the Houston property, is that right? The northern property?
That was the old petition, yes.
And was that able to be accomplished because, again, you could grade both sites at the same time? I guess I'm just going back to, you know, if it was possible then, why are we not possible today, that's all?
No, the challenge is the Houston's not willing to lose the structural on their land.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah,
It
they had a
takes
house.
both.
At the very end of the process, they said we're not allowing to take this house down and for us to do the grading. So it kind of stopped at that point.
If you go back to the Houstons,
If you could say your name and go ahead and state that.
Joe Sailors, just helping to assist the developer in the project that we're speaking to. But originally, in 2008, when this came to the board, it was for a drugstore and a commercial building on the Houston property. They were, at that point in time, in order to have the commercial building on the Houston property, you had to have a connection on that end of the property. Well, the Houstons have backed out of the development. They no longer want to develop their property as quickly as was originally planned in 2008. They actually didn't get any takers, and it went off the system, and that's why we came back a year and a half ago to get it back on the system. And staff suggested at that point in time that we do the 2008 plan and go through that whole process. Well, as that process fulfilled through the time, it became apparent that the Houstons had no idea that they were going to develop and couldn't afford to develop the building. So when they figured out that they couldn't develop the building, we went to them and said, okay, back out of the proposal. We'll just develop our corner and leave your property as is. And when you get someone to develop your property, if you need an easement to get into our system, we'll give you an easement. But if you don't want, if you decide you want to put a building where that road is, because of the grading that you're going to have to do on the property, you go whichever way you want to go. But we will give you an easement to come into us if you want to. You have to realize at this intersection, it's almost 45 to 60 feet higher from where our building is to where the house is that have talked about in the past on the Houston property. And if you back up even beyond the Houston property to the Cathy property, that's probably another 30 feet taller. So you're looking at a grading a piece of property and moving thousands and thousands of cubic feet of dirt that just makes no sense to be able to develop the corner.
So I have a question, probably for staff and for the client. If the Houston property were to be commercial, obviously that hill is gone. I mean, so if there's a study to say approximately what is that elevation going to be in the future, and then look at the entrance road on the property in question here, and figure out if it'll work reasonably, and if it does, put the easement in with language to remove the wall, et cetera, when that's developed?
That Beatties Ford Road is about 716.
I'm asking if that's an option, a study, it
Yeah,
would
we
be
can
by
study that,
the,
absolutely.
just to know if it will work with the future pad, and then that may solve that. Just have an easement and grade it when they develop that parcel.
Sure, we'd be more than happy.
But we'd have to see a plan for that, right?
Correct. Come on up, Brian.
My name is Brian Upton. I'm the civil engineer for the developer. And to provide a little bit of clarity on this, we have gone through that exercise of studying the grades that we have proposed for this development now are basically the same grades that we had a year ago when we were coming through this process, where everything tied out. Where this retaining wall is coming in is because now that the Houston property is not part of this, that without being able to get on and grade the Houston property to bring it down, as Joe and Jeff mentioned, it doesn't work out without this retaining wall or without permission from the Houstons, which it doesn't sound like we're going to obtain right now to be on their property doing the work. But we had worked through an exercise where we had graded out the public road, we had graded the Houston property as it could be developed, and all that went into where we were setting the elevations. The site was also set, keeping in mind the elevations coming off of Mount Holly Huntersville Road. That's lower, so it's coming up a steep driveway into the site, kind of levels off through the middle, and then continues to go up at a steeper grade to get to Beatties Ford Road. So that's kind of where all this is. But we have looked at how this all interconnects. It's just right now, without being able to grade on the Houston property, that it's necessitating this retaining wall.
And I guess that's what kind of saying is if that's been done, shared with staff, knowing that in the future it will work, but you still will need the wall, obviously, with provisions to have an access and remove the wall at a later date? Is that a?
Yeah, we would be open to that.
Just to go a little bit deeper, do you remember what that finished elevation was on the previous plan and what this one is? I know you say it's close.
Yeah, I think that we had kept the finished floor elevations of the convenience store the same from plan to plan. And it's probably within a foot or so along the driveway. And some of that was just trying to mitigate the retaining wall height and slopes and being able to install the wall. And we can still tweak and modify the grades as needed to,
And we also understand that this is conceptual at the rezoning level. And we'll need to get into further detail when we go to construction, if construction plans were to come to fruition.
There's two, you gotta realize and remember, there's two definite places we've got to tie into. Beatty Sword Road already built, Mount Holly Holmes Road already built. We've got to get to their levels. And we're stuck with that whether we like it or not.
Sure. Any other questions on that for now? Could move to another. What's the status? Oh, go ahead, Prince. You're up.
Yeah, so this could be for staff, and my question or concern would be, what's the environmental impact would that cause with the surrounding neighbors or communities?
No different than any other development. They're, as you've heard tonight, they're offering to meet the tree save requirement. We would obviously have erosion control measures in place, so there wouldn't be any off-site impacts, but nothing unusual.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So I pulled the plan up from last time. So you did kind of simulate it last time. I mean, I don't know how much you changed from last fall to this time around, but you had the road running up the hill, I suppose, at that point, right? And it was all modeled out.
that's right, it sloped up, the driveway between the two properties.
So
sloped up, yeah.
did it change a whole lot once you dropped the retaining wall in? I guess everything above, on the north side of the retaining wall, of course, went up the height of the retaining wall, but what I'm getting at, if you just did your best to stub in a possible connection up to your property line, retaining wall on both sides, wouldn't that pretty much satisfy the requirement to have future connectivity when the property to the north develops?
Well, I think what the issue we would run into trying to stub all the way to the property line is that we can only stub the driveway up at a certain slope, whereas with it being dirt, it can go a lot steeper.
Right.
So if we're trying to take it all the way to the property line at a flatter slope, it's gonna create a much higher retaining wall, and then you also have to be able to put the support in behind the retaining wall.
Right.
So there's only so close we can get the retaining wall to the property line without crossing.
Okay. But it is possible to make grade once the commercial site to the north flips over.
Once they develop and they're able to come in and grade, because it was pointed out on one of the plans, there's a big knoll.
Right.
Basically in the middle of the Houston property. Yeah, so as you can kind of see.
Yeah.
You can draw.
Up there, yeah.
So, yeah, where this pink circle is, and everything kind of goes down from there. So theoretically, once that property is developed, that knoll can be shaved off. The dirt sort of spread across the property to level it out, and then it makes connecting into this property a lot easier.
Okay, all right.
Anything else?
And same thing for the sidewalk point, the same thing, we have grade elevate problem, and we will bond it. When the Houston's grade, we will finish the sidewalk.
Right, yeah, I guess along those lines, the reason we didn't take the sidewalk all the way to the property corner
Be a
is
steep.
because of the angle of the property line. It's not coming in perpendicular, it's at a pretty sharp angle. So to get that sidewalk in without the sidewalk, basically being
It will not be an 80.
a skateboarder's dream.
So are you willing to ask for that modification tonight?
Yes, and if we have to bond it, we'll go ahead and bond it until the Houstons develop theirs, we'll finish the sidewalk. For now, it's just gonna be a steep sidewalk. Wheelchairs will be rolling down it.
Okay. No other questions. Somebody have a motion prepared? Okay,
Take your time.
take your
Take your
time.
time. We'll keep chatting.
Yeah.
I'll ask a quick question on the traffic impact analysis. I think last time I pointed out the storage as you're coming south on Beatty's Ford, specifically in the morning. It seems shorter. It's a lot shorter than the 2008 plan. It was a couple hundred feet long then, and you kind of truncate it, right, because of where you have to enter that property on the north side there. What's the distance of that storage going left on Mount Holly Huntersville, and do you think that's appropriate?
Yeah, good evening. My name is Patrick Monroe. I'm the traffic engineer for the project. The storage length for the southbound left turn lane on, were you talking Mount Holly or?
Beatty's
Beatty's
Ford to left on Mount Holly Huntersville.
It's
That's
about 225 feet, and I believe the existing storage today is maybe 125.
yeah, it's not a lot. You're doubling it, but there's left turners that are further back than 200 feet.
Yep,
you
so
go
we
through there.
maximize that storage as much as possible with where the leftover is going to be. We also are installing the right turn lane, which is 300 feet long. It's a significant right turn lane, and that'll allow people to somewhat, get around this area. This intersection is, it's at capacity today, so with some of these improvements, it will improve this situation, but it is at capacity today.
Yeah. I guess my main question is why the dedicated left? Is that a requirement, that dedicated left into your property? Why can't you just have that storage and then have a break in the median going into the north of your property?
The left turn lane is a requirement from NCDOT in order to provide a left access into that intersection.
So people can't take a left out, I guess.
Correct.
Right, okay, all right.
Thank you.
Okay, I can try.
All right.
All right. In considering the proposed rezoning, RU 25-11, the planning board recommends approval with the conditions that future modifications to the grade and the retaining wall would be guaranteed upon further development of the property to the north. This is essential for guaranteeing connectivity. It is reasonable and in the public interest to approve this request because it is consistent with LU 5.1 of the 2040 plan, allowing for more density where transportation infrastructure and utilities already exist. This gas station will provide valuable services to the existing community.
Second.
You have a second?
Okay.
Question. Would you mind adding something to your motion about
Don't mind at all.
bonding the remainder of the sidewalk? We brushed over it real quickly. Bonding the remainder of that sidewalk for once that future parcel is developed.
So then we would just add,
Just add that to them.
Probably up here at the top.
yeah, okay.
Modifications to grade.
To the grade,
retaining wall,
the-
retaining wall,
The retaining wall and bonding sidewalk.
Correct.
Do you accept?
Yeah. Second.
Motion, discussion?
One quick clarification. I know you use the word connectivity. I'm assuming we're interchangeable for easement. Is that what we're, just making sure that that's, okay, you're fine with that.
Discussion.
I came in here fully prepared to say no. I had to very quickly make some changes. Thank you all for being very flexible. I feel like this is exactly why we have these, why we have the planning board, because we were able to work something out that really works for the town, works for you, and something that is a better product to take to the commissioners.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good fit for the location. I think it'll do really well there. I think it's a super challenging site. It was last time, and, I can't remember if I voted for or denied last time, but I think it's a good fit. It works, and I appreciate you guys wanting to, give up your wall and, give your easement up to make it work and connect in the future. So I appreciate that, and I think
I was like Trina, I was actually probably came in here leaning more towards a denial than approval. But again, I'm glad we able to discuss it. I would like to thank staff though, because I've been here in Huntersville long enough that connectivity is crucial for our community. I mean, we look at everything through connectivity. So for us not to require that is a big step. It's tough for us to do that. I'm sure it's going to be tough for the town board to do that as well. Yeah. And again, so yeah, I think it wasn't mentioned, but I know there's, I think, $750,000 worth of off-site road improvements, which again helps the community. I do support the land use. Again, I wish there was an easier connectivity, but I also understand that, it's hard to penalize an existing landowner that wants to invest in the community just because the adjoining property owner doesn't. So, but again, thank you, staff, for pushing hard for connectivity. I appreciate that.
I'd just like to add on to what Scott had said. I think there's a lot of ancillary benefits that, to me, has great value for the community as a whole. One of the most significant ones is the transportation, or at least the traffic improvement is substantial. In addition to that, the economic development benefits are also not talked about much, but certainly generates additional jobs. But more importantly, it provides a welcoming introduction into Huntersville. Right now, you just have an empty spot. And I think as Huntersville continue to grow, we want to make sure people have the essential services that they need upon entry into the city. Thanks. Good job.
Thank you.
Sure, I'll echo a lot of that, and yes, we absolutely do need a gas station out there, and Circle K is a great brand, so this is the right thing for that spot, a tough to develop site, so, kudos to the engineers and everyone out there that did it. We did approve this before unanimously, by the way, so I think Greg that read the motion, and I was ready to approve it tonight as well, so it's a great use of the space. Connectivity will come when it's time, when we get some developed to the north, so all for it.
Good. Okay, yeah, I echo all your comments, so we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's unanimous, so thank you. Thank you for your time. Okay, this time I would like to turn over the chair leadership to the vice chair to move to the next item.
Yep. Would somebody like to make a motion to recuse Jay Henson?
Motion to recuse Jay Henson.
Second.
All those in favor? Jay, if you'll step out, we will bring you back afterwards. Moving on to item 4B, consider a recommendation on petition R25-08 2nd Street Village, a request by Jay Henson and Brian Hines to rezone 4.799 acres at 204 North Church Street from neighborhood residential to neighborhood residential with a conditional district for townhomes and an apartment. Mr. Faber.
All right, before we begin, I'll submit my staff report into the record. So the rezoning plan is proposing to add a 15-unit co-op apartment and 61 townhomes. They'll be providing 128 parking spaces made up of a mix of surface lots, garages, and on-street parking. The project will meet its tree save requirements, and it will add a 12-foot side path, which will be part of the Scene Trail, along with a hardscape planting strip that will match the previously approved planting strip as part of the First and Church Street Townhome project to the south. So the applicant entered into a purchase agreement with the town of Huntersville for 1.68 acres. Part of that agreement was to provide future affordable housing. And then for the rezoning site, the applicant is proposing 6 urban open spaces. 2 of those will be booners, 2 will be pedestrian passageways, 1 will be a green, and another will be a park. The 2 booners will provide a multi-use access way that prioritizes pedestrians while still allowing slow vehicular usage. Additionally, those booners will be placed within a public access easement to allow the community to use it as future connections. Staff does recommend that the applicant provide on the rezoning plan how they're going to amenitize their boonroof in order to meet ordinance requirements. And here are the elevations for the townhomes. And the elevation for the apartment building. So the applicant does have 6 modification requests. Staff is in support of all 6 modification requests. I'll quickly go through a few of them. The first is to the yard trees. The applicant does plan to provide yard trees only where space is allowed. Next, the applicant is asking to increase the amount of attached housing from 30% to 100%. The next modification is to reduce the required buffer to 0. The next is to the rear setbacks, which is to allow a variable rear setback that is less than the required 35 feet, and additionally to allow less than the 20 feet of required separation from detached garages. The next modification is to increase the height from the max requirement to 3 feet. And the last modification is to the on-street parking. They are asking to not provide on-street parking for this attached housing type. Staff, again, is in support of all these modifications as they are consistent with the increased density proposed by the downtown master plan. And here is the location of the site over the 2040 Huntersville Community Plan. The site is located within the mixed-use center and the town core. These are all the policies that support the plan. I won't go into each policy. One I will highlight is policy LU 8.2, which calls to encourage higher design standards. As part of that, this site is only required to provide 1 urban open space. The applicant is providing 6 quality urban open spaces while also providing some additional aesthetic elements to the project that go above and beyond the minimum standards of the ordinance. The downtown master plan also supports this project. The red rectangular box shows the site of the project over the downtown master plan. This area calls for a mix of apartments and attached housing, as well as allowing between 2 to 3, or suggesting 2 to 3 stories in height. The downtown master plan also goes into further conceptual detail, showing 2 connections, one of them a moonroof, as well as a park at the corner of 2nd Street and Walter Street. The plan, the rezoning plan does meet the intent of this conceptual portion of the downtown master plan. Staff is in support of this rezoning. We do have just 2 recommendations. One is to provide all of the amenities that are going to be needed for the moonroof, as well as answering all of the remaining staff comments and issues. And just to clear things up, because I believe there was a little bit of confusion, all the stormwater issues that were previously discussed at the public hearing have been resolved. And if you guys have any questions, I can answer those for you. I believe the applicant does not have a presentation, but they are here.
Thank you, Nathan. Any questions for staff? Lee?
Tell us what you're looking for in an amenitized wharf.
Sure. I'll bring up a slide that shows what our ordinance specifically asks for, as well as what our design guideline speaks to.
Perfect.
Some of that is providing a surface that's different than just a paved surface. So, pavers, something that is inviting to pedestrians and users of the street, as well as, street trees within it or other landscaping items along the moonroof. Those are just some of the few.
Okay, so you're looking for elevations or something for the wharf?
Yeah, we're just looking to see what they're planning on doing other than just here's the location of the moonroof.
Okay.
I think it speaks highly of the plan when the toughest questions that you come up with is for the Wooners that, is there some way to at least add a design element to it that would reduce the likelihood of vehicular traffic going through more frequently?
Sure, yeah, so the whole point of the moonroof is mainly to provide safe passage for pedestrians and bikers, but also allowing slow vehicular usage, and by doing that, you're adding bricks, which slow down cars, adding street furniture that prevents speeding along stretches of it.
What's included in this application, though?
Right now, we're asking for them to show what they're going to do,
So
to differentiate that. Yep.
Thanks.
So the determination was that TIA was not required, correct?
Correct, yep.
So I see in the report, it states that, I guess the plan as submitted was for 58 townhomes, and then in this current proposal, it's 61 townhomes. Is that just an error, or was there a change in the plan?
There may have been an increase from the previous submittal. I'll have to look into that for you.
Okay. I mean, I know it's only 3 townhomes, but I assume that wouldn't change the calculus of whether or not a TIA would be required.
I believe if they do change it, they may need to look at it again, but I would
Okay.
assume it would not make a difference.
Okay. Thank you.
Prince?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether you went over the percentage of maybe low-income housings, the percentage of that, and also how the additional amenities that would be created will maintain the character of the surrounding neighborhood.
Yeah, so to the last question, staff does believe that the amenities, fit into the neighborhood. It's also going to provide a use for neighbors other than just the people that are going to be living at this site as part of the park and the Vunaroof, so there will be a use other than just the people who will be living here. And then to the first question, I believe the apartment, which will be part of that affordable housing component, is 18 units. And I believe what they decided at is 120% of the AMI. Anything other than that, I would leave the applicant to discuss further.
Okay.
I think the applicant is here, if y'all have any questions for the applicant. Mr. Hines, you didn't think you'd come here without getting up here, did you?
Board, thank you. Brian Hines, 121 Gilead Road. We're the applicants to this project. Nathan always has to chime in because I don't know how to say Vunaroof, but it starts with a W.
I hope I'm saying it right as well.
So a couple questions, respond to a couple questions. The TIA, I believe we did go back to Stephen Trott and the engineering department regarding if the increase by 3 units, required additional look at the TIA. I do not believe it does do that. And we were talking, we had a couple things with, we are working with staff on what the amenities are. One of the things we originally started with, we were going to use permeable pavers, kind of like the project on Walk 23, if you've seen that, where that's our entire stormwater system. So we're having to revise this because, especially on the south side of 2nd Street, it's not conducive to permeable pavers because it can't be a storm drainage system because it doesn't perk. It's pretty much that simple. So with the Verners, what we're planning on doing is doing, some asphalt, doing sections that maybe can be permeable pavers as well, to, hopefully to where we don't have to do such a large underground detention system, which is going to be in the upper common open space area. Regarding the park on the corner, that will be open to the public. We've had conversations with Parks and Rec about that, donating that back over to the Parks and Rec. We're planning on, at this point, just keeping it within the project because it's easier to manage with all HOA, grass cutting, those kind of things, but it will not be exclusive just to the HOA. What's here? Was there another question I need to address?
Well, we were talking about the attainable housing. Like, explain that process, and there's an apartment building that you're not going to build.
Correct. So as part of our agreement with the town, we're committing to at least 15 units in a 3-story building that will be between 80 and 120% AMI. So we will entitle the property. It'll be part of our plat. We'll donate that improved parcel, which will include at least 24 parking spaces. And we will donate that to a nonprofit. We've been talking to Lake Norman CDC. We've talked to We Build Concord. we've talked to a couple of those groups that they would basically, we would donate the value of that land improved, which would, whatever that value is. So they got built-in equity, they can go and they can get grants, they can go get financing, whatever it is. They will manage it, they will maintain it, they will lease it. They will be part of our HOA documents, and they will also adhere to our architectural guidelines. So it will look like it just fits in. You won't be able to tell the difference. So we did 15. We may be able to get 17 or 18 units because we're trying to get like maybe 6 units per floor, but we also want to have people I've talked to that may be in charge of this program, want to have like an open area, like a meeting room or a kitchen or something like that. So we may get more than 15, we're hoping to, but overall, the whole project's about 20% of the whole project is attainably affordable.
And then the church, that kind of lies within your, I assume you've had conversations with them and talked about being a good neighbor and.
Absolutely, we're on great relationships. Some people have asked, have we approached about buying them? Have not, but they're great neighbors. I've owned the property around them for years now. They're a nice, small family church. They're very amenable to everything we're doing here, so.
Because I noticed in your site plan that you're taking away what they're like little storage area, parking.
No, we're not touching their area. So if you look at the little, their building.
Yeah.
They have a little storage building in the corner right beside that. So this is entirely on our property. We're not removing anything.
I got you. So that red building parking deck in the aerials, that's your property. They're just using it?
Well, that's a very thick line. I think that's just a representation of, the property line is behind that. That building is not on it. It's completely on the town's, completely on the church's property.
Well, I was talking about the red building. Go back to that aerial. There's a red building to the north of there, red and white. That's your property, even though it looks like it connects to the church parking lot.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so right where it says 100-109, those two parcels?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are currently on our property.
Okay.
Yes, they'll be removed.
A second ago. Yeah. So is this the apartments, and is that going to be the footprint?
That's the church.
That's currently the church.
Oh, okay.
The bottom left, right
There, okay. And
That's
that's,
the attainable housing building.
okay, attainable housing. And that is the footprint that is to be? I mean,
It's roughly the footprint. It could deviate. We're donating at least a 7,000 square foot parcel. We have taken a building that represents exactly what will fit in that, with a group that has shown a lot of interest in the recipient of this parcel.
Yeah, this one of a kind, I guess, since we hadn't seen one like this before. So what's the financial model? It just goes to a co-op and they have it in perpetuity then, and how long is the affordable tag on it for?
It's in perpetuity.
Perpetuity?
We will continue to work with the town, because when we end up purchasing the property, which is next week, there's clear guidelines of what we have to do. We have to donate to somebody that has to do at least 15 units. We have 7 years to do it. They have to abide by 80 to 120. And then as we continue, and we find that recipient that we work with, the town will have a say in some of those things. But right now, it's in perpetuity. It's not a 15-year,
Right, okay.
20-year model.
Let's see. So where we waived the 30% attached, you got 61 townhomes. I assume they're all for sale. Can I assume they're all
I
for
would
sale?
assume that, yeah, at this point, taking it to the market for sale is definitely the product that's out there.
Okay, good. Any idea how many you could have built if you had abided by the 30% detached? How much did waiving that get you?
Well, if you just look at it, I would say that, we could only do, well, that 30% is also a mixture of mixed use and other building types. So if that's the case, if we got 61, I'd say 20, we'd be able to do 20.
Right, yeah, okay. That's all I can think of right now.
So while we're looking at this map and drawing on it, right, one of the the W word goes through here, right? And it's like a clear turn here, and I could see cars slowing down for this. And I know you're gonna add some amenities, maybe some speed tables and whatnot, but this one here seems to cut like straight through. And I'm worried about somebody coming off of Church, although there's not a ton of traffic there, but somebody coming through there at a faster rate of speed than what we really want for a pedestrian-friendly area.
That's where we would just work with them to add amenities to that moonroof that slows down vehicular traffic.
Put planter pots every certain distance and make people work.
Looks like there's almost a traffic circle down here in this area. Right there.
Yeah, so that is one of the pedestrian passageways that they're.
Oh, it's just sidewalk, okay. Correct. Let's talk about the setbacks then. So these are the garages up here that are encroaching on the, I guess, the setback requirement, the ones up this way?
So those, all of those townhomes are attached garages. There's only
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 townhomes where they may do detached garages, and those can.
Those are the dotted lines here. Okay. So then the setback off Walter Street there, right? That's.
Yeah, so the setback that they're asking to modify is the rear setbacks. Currently, our ordinance requires 35-foot setback for attached garaged townhomes. So I believe they have a varying setback between 7 and up to 20 feet, I believe, at some points.
We feel like that's, appropriate in this urban setting.
Yeah, I got you, but the single-family homes across the street might not think so. Street being only 12 feet wide. Okay, all right.
All right, any other questions? If not,
Yeah, can you just give a quick timeline on what construction might look like for this project? With respect to the townhomes, I know that the co-op is a little bit of a different story.
It'll take probably 6 to 8 months to grade it. By the time we get through permitting, it'll be this time next year will be the earliest we'll probably break ground. And then from there, probably, once we turn over the parcels, another 6 or 8 months. After that, you're talking about somebody building in 5 to 7 months. So you're probably looking in the middle of 2027.
Thank you.
The co-op aspect of it is interesting because those are different kind of creatures than what we typically would deal with. And 2 things come to mind. One is the actual income constraint. Always a little concerned when you hear income constraint because what it does, it disincentivizes some people from ever making more money. So is the model to allow transfer of ownership?
That's a great question. That's not something we're getting into on our level because we're going to leave that up to the nonprofit. Our desire is for them to stay in it as long as they can. And I know there's other models where you get to a certain income level and then you're kicked out.
Right.
Those will be conversations we have directly with whoever the authority is that we work with.
I appreciate that. Not a zoning question, but certainly important as part of the project. Thanks.
So what's going to be the criteria of selecting a nonprofit, or do you have one in mind? Or?
Well, we love to work with local participants. And so we started having a conversation with Lake Norman CDC. I was on a committee, been on a couple committees of local developers, planning members, trying to figure out an attainable housing model. Because everybody's tried it, not a lot of people are very successful with it. You got a lot of grant money, a lot of the grant money goes to the big players down in Charlotte. So a lot of people really have the heart and the desire and the passion to be involved, even if they're a builder or whoever they are, to provide something, 1 or 2 units here and there. So we started that conversation, which was the Cornelius CDC. Cornelius CDC changed their name to the Lake Norman CDC. We would love for them, since they represent the North Meck community, we would love for them to be the participant. Right now, they don't have that arm. Right now, they just receive grant money, private funding from other people, and they help people that are in need. They are in the process right now, and the builder we use on Walk 23, right down Gilead Road, his name with Meeting Street Homes, he is on that board. He's very interested in participating, in this project in some way. And I think Lake Norman CDC is our desire. Whether or not they have the desire to do it at the end of the day, that will be for up to debate. We have spoken to We Build Concord. The director of that actually is a Huntersville resident. They have talked about rebranding and do like We Build the Carolinas. So again, we've talked to a couple other people. There's a couple foundations of large national builders that would be interested in that. But we're looking for the small local builder. We're looking for, the local participant that can touch it and see it, pretty frequently.
If there are no other questions, I'll accept a motion.
I have a motion. In considering the proposed zoning application R25-08 Second Street Village, the planning board recommends approval based on the plan being consistent with policies LU 1.1, 2.1, 5.1, 5.3, 7.1, 8.2, 9.2, D2, 1.2, 2, 3.1, 6.2 of the 2040 Huntersville Community Plan. It is reasonable in the public interest to approve the rezoning plan because the proposed rezoning is consistent with the envisioned uses and development patterns set forth in the 2040 Community Plan and the Downtown Master Plan.
I'll second.
Point of clarification, do we need to make sure that the modifications are also in the motion? Sorry, Chris. And I think you could probably just reference the modifications in the staff report.
Yeah. No.
So you would like to amend your motion, is what I'm
Yeah, I
hearing?
would like to amend my motion, considering the proposed rezoning application R25-08 Second Street Village, the planning board recommends approval based on modifications and the plan being consistent with ... Is that all I need to say? All the modifications shown. Yeah.
In staff report. Is there a second to that modified?
Second.
Thank you. I'll open it up for discussion. Chris, you made the motion if you have any.
No, I mean, I think it's what we're looking for in the downtown, master plan, right? It's, a little bit more density. We want the rooftops. We want it to look good. They're bringing the, affordable housing piece with it, which is nice. I want to see if a Warner works and looks nice. And I like, that they're tying in with the community with the open space and being good neighbors to the church, et cetera.
I love this, and I appreciate very much that this is not the first time you've brought some lower income housing to us. I appreciate your heart for the community. It's really clear and very apparent. So there's not anything that I'm not a fan of on this project.
On the surface, if you just looked at it based on the old rules, we probably would be really still struggling with it. But if you look at it in the context of the community it's being built in, it's spot on. You look at the location close to and proximity to transportation centers, which may be active in the future, you need more density. So I think this is a clear signal that this is consistent with the growth of Huntersville, not just the fact that it fits a particular square. It fits within the context of everything else.
Yeah, just I'll echo what everyone else said, and I'll say that I reviewed the purchase agreement. It looks like it checks all the boxes as far as the affordable component is concerned. So I think this is what the town's looking for with respect to that piece. So yeah, I'm in support of this project.
Yeah, absolutely, a great product and a lot of work done here to make sure all the boxes were checked and everything was great. It's like you knew the rules already, so I appreciate that. And looking forward to seeing it come out of the ground. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's a great example that I'm not aware of another project that somebody has been able to incorporate 15 affordable units that will be in perpetuity. So, this is something we can hopefully lean on in the future and maybe follow some other examples. And again, the developers are known entities here. They live in the community, they work in the community. They've got a great project down the street. So, yeah, we appreciate you guys continuing to invest in Huntersville. If there's no more comments, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? That passes. Would somebody like to make a motion to bring Jay Henson back?
Make a motion to bring Jay Henson back.
Suppose I'll second that.
All those in favor? Good. Give it back to him. There'll be no coup tonight. Jay, I didn't screw it up.
Oh, I don't think I did. You didn't have to. All right, ready to move on? 4C, consider a recommendation on petition 25-07, Home 2 Hilton, a request by PM Patel to rezone plus or minus 4.69 acres at 13830 Statesville Road from corporate business and general residential to highway commercial with conditions. Mr. Farber.
Thank you. I'll submit my staff report into the record and get started. So here's a quick aerial view of the site. To the east, you have the existing single-family homes. To the south, you have single-family homes as well as the existing Best Western Hotel. And to the west, we have, across 21, we have the Ford car dealership. So the rezoning includes a 70-foot, 117-room Home to Hilton brand hotel. It includes 119 parking spaces with 5 van parking spaces. The access to the site will be off of Dallas Street and from the existing Best Western via the Highway 21. The picture here shown is the conceptual elevation that has been provided to staff. Staff's generally okay with the design. Staff does need the applicant to provide us the full elevations. Additionally, the applicant is asking for a conceptual note for the overall project and elevations. For this, staff does recommend the applicant use staff's conceptual language to ensure the site is generally consistent with the approved rezoning plan. At the corner of the site at 21 and Dallas Street, the applicant is proposing a 4,000 square foot urban open space, which is proposed to include a fire pit, gazebo, walking paths, and some benches. This urban open space is currently shown to be located within a stormwater drainage easement, so we do need the applicant to provide us confirmation that NCDOT is okay with these items being placed here. Next is buffers. So the applicant is providing the full required 30-foot buffers. They are proposing to increase the number of plantings above the minimum ordinance requirements of the zoning ordinance. That includes increasing the 4 required trees to 7 and the 7 shrubs to 10. Additionally, they are looking to provide a 12-foot evergreen every 20 feet to add additional height to that buffer. The applicant is requesting a modification to grade within the buffer selectively. Staff could be in support of this modification. We just need a little more clarity on exactly what existing vegetation is going to remain. Currently, the landscaping plan shows that the entire buffer will be replanted. So we just need a little bit of clarity on that. Additionally, the applicant is proposing to place a wall and a fence along the edge of the buffer. In the blue, you can see that's where they're proposing a 6-foot masonry wall, and the light blue is an 8-foot opaque fence. They would also like to run that opaque fence along the full rear portion of the Best Western property. The applicant does own that Best Western Hotel as well. A retaining wall is proposed along the eastern edge of the parking lot and that 30-foot buffer. At the tallest portion of that retaining wall, it's about 10 to 15 feet above that 30-foot buffer. That height does decrease the farther south you go along that retaining wall. Staff does have some concerns relating to the retaining wall negating some of the benefits of that buffer. Some of the initial buffer plantings would be about the height of that retaining wall, and you wouldn't see some of that tall growth until full maturity. And just for some context, provided a street view from Hillcrest looking at the rear of the property where that retaining wall and that buffer would be. So this shows some of that existing vegetation that's currently there. The applicant does have 6 modification requests. The first 3 requests involve increasing the height of the hotel from the 36-foot maximum to 70 feet. That increase in height would require a separation between the hotel and the nearest portion of a residential property by 210 feet. The applicant is requesting to reduce that separation to 100 feet. Staff is currently not in support of those 3 modifications, as the increase in height is not commensurate with the decrease in that separation from the residential properties. Then we have the remaining 3 modifications, which we could recommend or we do support in some cases. As discussed earlier, there's the buffer modification request, which we could support if they provide us some of that information, since they are providing us an increased number of plantings that go above and beyond the minimum requirements of the ordinance. The next modification request is to the hotel location. The ordinance requires that building to be up against the corner of that property along road frontage. Because of that drainage easement, that would make it impossible to place that building there. We are in support of that modification to set back the building away from that corner. And then finally, a swim buffer impact modification. This was not on the rezoning plan. This was brought to our attention by our engineering staff. So they are planning to impact a swim buffer that is a jurisdictional stream. Mecklenburg County is okay with that impact occurring, and staff could support this modification request. What we would need is just a mitigation plan, an approved mitigation plan to be provided as part of a condition on these rezoning site plan. The 2040 Huntersville Community Plan does support the use and the general location of this project. It is located within a employment center and on the edge of the mixed-use center future character area. The 2040 Huntersville Community Plan policies LU 6.2, LU 5.2, and LU 2.1 do support this project, as the project's located on a major thoroughfare and within the higher intensity uses that are allowed within the 2-mile I-77 and NC 115 corridor. Policies LU 8.2 and policies 11.1 do not support the project, as the current design doesn't go above and beyond the ordinance minimums, and in order for that we need the full detailed elevations to be provided. Additionally, the decrease in distance between the residential neighbors and the increase in the height of the hotel are not generally compatible with the nearby neighborhood. Staff would not be able to support this project without a combination of the following recommendations being met. The first is to lower the height of the building. Second is to lower or adjust the retaining wall and grading so as not compromise the buffer. Another is to provide a wider buffer, and then provide increased excellence in design, and then to provide that stream mitigation plan as a condition on the plan. And if you have any other questions, I can answer those. The applicant is also here and has a presentation as well.
We'll start with questions for staff.
Yeah, the Best Western to the south, do you have on hand the elevation of that building by chance, or approximation?
Exact elevation of that. I've been looking through all of our plans and I haven't been able to track that down yet. So that's something we're still looking at.
Okay.
So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Just to confirm, so The house that's currently there, that's immediately behind where this is gonna build, that one is part of the rezoning, correct?
The plan is to remove that.
Remove that house. The next lot is vacant.
Correct.
So the first house that we're talking about, it being too close to, is 503, correct?
Well, so for the actual zoning ordinance requirement, it's to the edge of the nearest residential property. It doesn't have to have a home on it. But yeah, the nearest house that won't be is right here.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
503 Hillcrest. And that house is closer to the Best Western than this one is going to be, correct?
Correct, yep.
All right. All right. So just want to make sure I had that.
Okay. Other questions? Michael?
I'm still trying to form the question.
That's
in my
okay,
head,
take your
but,
time.
I mean, the fact that we're on Statesville, which is kind of a commercial corridor, how does that fit into the full context? I'm in the context tonight. How does this fit into the full context? Because you look across the street and nothing but a bunch of car dealerships, and next door to it is another hotel. Just trying to get a sense for.
Yeah, so we fully acknowledge that its location along 21 is definitely a positive for the project and for a use of this nature. Currently, our general concern is the impact of the height of the hotel on the neighborhood behind the rezoning site. So it is just a challenging property, given its location.
So I just want to say, if this were like a smaller boutique-style hotel, you would be for it. It's the...
If it was 36 feet and they wouldn't need that modification, then yeah, we would likely be for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before the petitioner presents? Okay. Yeah. We'll call on Con to make a presentation.
Yeah. Yep.
Good evening. I'm Susan Irvin with Irvin Law Group. First, I want to thank Nathan for that presentation. He included a lot of information that I have in my PowerPoint, and I promise I will try not to repeat it. One of the things I'm not going to spend too much time on is just talking about the history of the owner of this hotel, Mr. Patel and his family. They are a local family-owned business. Actually, the very first hotel that he did was this Best Western, and it was 25 years ago. And Mr. Patel and his family lived behind the Best Western for 14 years. And a few years ago, they moved to another neighborhood in Huntersville. But he has worked hard with his family on this business, and they now own 58 hotels on the eastern seaboard. His goal was to bring a high-quality hotel to Huntersville and to provide some accommodations that Huntersville doesn't have right now. That's what this Home 2 Hilton Hotel would do. He has had this property and acquired this property for that purpose. And he's also worked with NCDOT on their right-of-way for the Dallas Street extension. One of the things that this Hilton brand will do is if he is allowed to build a Home 2 Hilton, they will then upgrade the Best Western, and a complete upgrade. This is information that I've already covered. I want to give you a little bit of details, though, about the difference between the Home 2 Hilton and many of the other hotels that are provided in this area. And that's really what this slide does. The Home 2 is a hybrid suites hotel, and it really provides a niche for corporate and other business needs, say somebody who is going to work at the park or at the hospital, or it also provides a place for people to stay here with private events. They might be coming downtown to attend a downtown event. So it is a higher tier hotel and would also increase and upgrade the current Best Western. This is a little bit different view, maybe a little more pulled out view than the one you saw in Nathan's presentation. I did want to kind of explain to you kind of what's around it on a broader scale. Quite a few automobile dealerships across Highway 21 and the fast food out parcels there at the intersection of Gilead 77 and 21. And this also shows you the right-of-way impact on this, this corridor and the location of the Best Western really relative to the hotel. I wanted to just touch a little bit on the site plan and just give you some high points. I appreciate Nathan's summary of the staff report. I do think that after reviewing with the staff and going through his staff report, really most of the comments that staff has made, applicant has or will be able to resolve working with staff. The one that we really can't do anything about is the location of this building relative to the lot, I'm not sure what it's shown as lot 5, yeah, here. That is something that we could change, and you could make the hotel more at a diagonal. But if you did that, the hotel would then be closer to the 3 lots that are on north, on the other side of Hillcrest. I'm trying to, oh yeah, here. So if you were to change the location of the hotel so that it was more like this location, you might pull it away from this lot, but then they would be much closer to the 3 lots that are here. This lot, as was pointed out earlier, is already close to the existing Best Western, which has been there for 25 years. Okay, Brian, you're gonna help me? Just erase it, what I did.
It's good now.
Oh, okay, good. But the point being that the ideal location for this hotel really is Highway 21 and being parallel to Highway 21, especially given all the roadway improvements that have recently been done to Highway 21. And one of the things that Mr. Patel is very adamant about is that the street address for the Home 2 Hilton would be the same as the street address for the Best Western. They would share that entry drive right here so that no one is looking for a hotel on Dallas Street and trying to drive through the neighborhood looking for the hotel. So that was something that, you know, that was important to the Patels, and that they addressed that with the community. Another comment that Nathan had made was about widening the 30-foot buffer, and I'll get into the details of that a little bit more. But that is also something that Mr. Patel worked very hard on. Currently, there are 19 trees in that buffer area. He's going to be putting in over 200 trees. Also, the retaining wall, which Peyton has done some more deep dive engineering and reduced the height of that retaining wall. And I'll show that to you in a minute. but the buffer itself is enhanced, and with the retaining wall and a 6-foot masonry wall along this boundary line to keep headlights out, that buffer will be a benefit to the community. This is just a little bit more of a view of the buffer and the open space. I think Nathan mentioned earlier that NCDOT needs to approve the open space. We have received approval from them, so that is one more thing that, that we were able to achieve. This is a cross-section of the buffer itself. Again, 75% instead of 50% evergreens. And on the buffer, there would be a 12-foot tree every 20 feet in the second row. And so the purpose of that is to really provide more height initially. I wanted to just give you a view of the site from US 21. You can see Dallas Street coming in here, and you know, how that has really affected this site. Oops, okay. And this is another view from Hillcrest. Again, many of those trees are no longer there, if, you know, to the extent that they were before. So a total of 19 trees in the existing adjacent buffer area. Another view from Hillcrest is you can see the intersection improvements and everything right now with no building there. Another question that was asked about was the height of the Home 2 relative to the Best Western. And this diagram gives you an idea of the height. The Best Western, the driveway itself is 10 feet from the street, and then the height of that parapet is 68 feet 10 inches from the driveway. So a total of 78 feet and 10 inches from Highway 21. And the Home 2, Hilton here, would be 70 feet from Highway 21. Granted, the highway commercial zoning does have a 36-foot height limitation, but really the purpose of conditional zoning is it's a unique zoning for each property. And we're looking at this property that is a unique property and trying to come up with modifications that make this property work. And this buffer cross-section is taken from the very lowest point of the buffer itself. Another concern that Nathan mentioned was the height of the retaining wall relative to the buffer. It's not a high retaining wall all the way across. It's really just a low point where there's a deep area right at the lowest point. So this cross-section is taken from that lowest point, which would be right here. And you can see there's the buffer itself, the trees, the maturing trees, the shrubs, the small maturing trees, and this orange block is the 6-foot masonry wall that would be, again, above that and blocking out the parking lights. Another thing I do want to point out is that there are parking islands on this site plan that will also have trees, and those will be between the buffer area here, these trees along the parking lot, but then also a row of trees along this island and trees along this island. So really additional trees to block out any view of the hotel. We did talk about full architectural elevations. To do full architectural elevations, you really need to design the entire hotel. And that's a very expensive architectural cost. This is a photo of the hotel type that is from Boone that's existing now. And Mr. Patel would like for his hotel to look exactly like this. Significant enhanced buffer, again, between this hotel and the neighborhood, whereas the hotel in Boone really doesn't have that kind of a buffer. I have another view of the hotel here where you can see the one in Boone. There is a fence directly behind the parking lot, but really no trees and no buffer, just to give you an idea of how that fits in. Another thing I haven't talked about is the sustainable design and construction materials. This just gives you kind of an idea of what the layout is and why it's a unique hotel. LED lighting and green initiatives, energy efficient roofing materials, a very, very highly sustainable hotel, and that's one of the things that's a requirement of the Hilton Home too. Electric vehicle charging stations also for all EVs. I think Nathan did a good job of going over the community plan. This is a great economic development opportunity for the town. And we have, met with staff and worked on addressing comments, and I believe really, except for the height of the building, we've pretty much addressed all of the other comments, and, happy to continue to work with staff on any outstanding issues. That's it. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer, and if I can't, Peyton is here, and I'm going to just make Peyton answer all the questions.
Thank you. Okay, start. Chris, you want to start?
Yeah, so how tall is this building that we're looking at now? Because it only looks like it's 4 stories, and, I'm just guessing at some heights, but it doesn't appear to be 70 feet.
No, you're right. This building is a 4-story building. The one that we would be talking about, let me go back to that diagram. So this Best Western, for instance, is really a 3-story building.
It's 3-story, yeah, and it's probably only about 40 foot tall, but it's got this huge mast on
Massive
it.
thing.
Is that what we're thinking with this 70 feet? That was another one of my questions.
Yeah, I think what you're looking at as far as the actual height of the entire Best Western building, it's probably these roof pitches that you're looking at. That measurement Peyton took to this parapet. If you were to just kind of go to the, put another roof kind of here, what that would look like. You're probably looking, and I'm ballparking it, but let's just say it's 58 feet. And then you have another 10 feet to the street. So 68 feet, even without this parapet, element here. The height that you're looking at for the Home 2 would be 70 feet.
So that's what I was going to ask. So the height, is it measured from the street, or is it measured from the bottom of the building?
The height in this diagram is measured from the street.
I see that, yeah.
But you're
This
correct.
70 feet that you're talking about is measured from where?
The measurement for the building itself is generally you measure it from the floor elevation at the street grade.
Correct, okay.
So,
All right, so I guess another question I have, if you go back to the plan view, where you guys have the fireplace to the north, you talked about turning it diagonally. Was there any thought in shifting it directly north, let's just say 70 feet, and getting rid of the fireplace and pushing it away from Lot 5? You're still not encroaching on those ones to the east. Was there any thought there? Because that buys you a little bit more space in your ratio.
well, the reason that we needed to get approval for this from NCDOT is because with all of the work that they've done over here, there's a storm drainage easement here. So that would prevent the building from being built there. So there's a storm drainage easement, really considerable amount of work for that
Well, you're taking out that storm draining easement either way, right?
No, the easement itself stays
Days, you're just paving over the easement,
correct.
and there's no modification for that? There's no way to go to the state and get an
But a
encroachment?
building, because they want to be able to repair, and I've dealt with this before, and Peyton, correct me if I'm wrong, they need to be able to get to their drainage pipes, and they would not want a building sitting on that, if that makes.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm just wondering if you can put the pipe somewhere else.
That would be an NCDOT decision.
It's a 48-inch pipe, it's a large pipe. There used to be a creek through there, so
Yeah.
DOT took that creek and piped it. We're actually gonna have to take that pipe and continue it up to Hillcrest to help pick up that storm water that's all funneling down through there and get back to the site.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can
That
see
helps.
that dashed line.
Yep. Yeah, I see it right there.
That's an actual existing pipe that's in the ground today.
And why couldn't you move that to the north?
We're fixed under the highway there.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk with DOT. I don't think they're gonna relinquish their easement, though. I don't see them giving
My
us-
understanding was that it has to do with the roadway improvements, but
Right.
you may have
Yeah,
had some more
of-
discussions.
All of their systems tie into that, plus pipe in the creek.
Right.
There's a lot going on in there.
Yeah, here. Yeah, I just thought that would be a easier fix than, I mean, yeah, it just seems like it's a massive building, and you guys are trying to put, 5 stories, 70 feet somewhere where it shouldn't be. So that's not a question, but you can move on. I'll come up with more questions.
My question is, why are we insisting on 5 stories?
So the home to Hilton requirement here is for that height. I had asked Mr. Patel if, I'm trying to find that slide. I'd asked Mr. Patel if he could come down at all on the height, and he could bury a floor. Like, he could go down, but, to get the Hilton brand is very difficult to do. And they chose him because of his experience and his reputation. And they were willing to give that brand to him and then also upgrade the Best Western at the same time. So, so they do have parameters for what they require. But he could bury a floor. It's just not ideal to do that.
I understand it's not ideal, but it might be a nice compromise. And especially to the residents nearby, it might be a signal that, hey, we're working with you.
So was it just because of the population of Huntersville? Why was there a 4-story built in Boone, but then a 5-story has to be built here? That doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know the details of Home 2's requirements, but I
Okay.
do know that's their requirement here.
It's the room count. They're just trying to hit a certain room count per floor to get the total of 119, I think is where we're at. 117 or 119 rooms.
So the footprint in Boone is larger. So they got to the 119 in 4 floors?
Can't speak to the actual room count in that particular scenario, but I know for this particular location, to hit the 119 rooms in that footprint that we have, it needs to be the 5 stories that high to get there.
I don't know a lot about the hotel business, but I suspect that their business model is one that for this particular style and location, because you look here off of Gilead Road I-77, to a hotel guy, he sees high volume. You got nothing comparable close by. So what are you going to do? You're going to have a format and a footprint that suggests that they can capture as much business as they can. So it's nothing personal. It's just a business decision in terms of the economics of it.
Yeah, so I see that you've got a lot of letters in support of your project. Can you talk about how you sourced those letters and where those came from? And
That's a good question. Thank you for asking that question. As I said, Mr. Patel used to live in this neighborhood, and many of the people that he talked with about this project over the last couple of months were his friends and former neighbors. And in the course of this application, from the time that we filed it to now, He has gone through, met with groups of people, and agreed on additional concessions throughout that time period. I mean, one of them was the 6-foot masonry wall and the 8-foot wooden fence, and I think he volunteered to put an additional fence behind the current Best Western. He also agreed to enhance that 30-foot buffer and various other changes. One of the more important things, well, really two, I guess, two other important things were not to shift the location of the hotel and keep it on Highway 21. And the other one was not to allow a right turn out of the second entrance, to put a no right turn sign here to prevent people who are coming out of the driveway from turning right towards town. And those were just a few of them. Another one was a shared driveway access with the current Best Western. So I think the answer to your question is that it's because he did the work that he did on this project. And I can't take any credit for that. He did all of that.
So what you're saying is that some of these residential properties back here, you've got some support within that community that you went out and sourced yourself. And obviously, it's not true for everybody, but I at least understand that you've put in the legwork to.
Absolutely,
try and-
and you're correct. And I believe this property has signed a letter, and a couple of the other properties in the back have signed a letter as well.
I think you touched on it before, but, I think we're trying to get, per ordinance, 250 feet of separation. How many residential lots are inside of that 250 foot?
So the one that's primarily affected, because you'd measure it from here, would be Lot 5. This is the other one.
2 lots.
So it's those two.
We're at 100 feet from that property corner there to the corner of the building here.
Okay.
If you double that, it's,
Has lot,
it should just be these 2 lots.
has lot 5 or lot 6 spoke in favor or in opposition?
I don't know if he spoke with the Lot 5. I think that he did. I can't unfortunately speak for him. He was called away on a family matter tonight.
And so what is that distance, Peyton, maybe you, from,
Payne, do you know this one? Just distance?
We're right at 200 feet. Yeah.
and then what would they be down to the
Lot 6, it's 170 feet to here.
Gotcha. And then the existing from lot 5 and 6 down to the existing hotel, that's,
So I actually measured this today, and this is 116 feet.
okay. And then the ones on Hillcrest, obviously, are outside of that 250.
Yes, they are
Or
outside
that part
of
of-
250.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
Have you guys produced any backup showing that it will not reduce the value of Lot 5 and 6? Is that part of your?
So if we were doing a quasi judicial proceeding here, if this were an appeal or a variance, that would be a burden of proof. What you would have to do something like that is have an appraiser come in here and testify.
Yep.
And so I can't speak for an appraiser, what an appraiser would say, but if you are really just talking about these 2 lots, then you're really talking about 2 lots that are already within that distance of a hotel.
No, I would agree. I just think it might help your case going forward.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I know an appraiser.
So I know we've talked a little bit about the proposed height of the building and what Hilton's requirements are, have these, obviously this isn't a surprise to you that, you know, we have concerns over the height of the building. Have you had any discussions with Hilton specifically with respect to the height? I know you said you could drop a floor, but, you know, is there any other concession or workaround or some sort of compromise there?
So we have talked quite a bit about that over the course of this application. And I have asked that question about whether we can do that. And, you know, they're very exacting about things like sustainability, quality, and everything else. So we haven't had any success in saying we want to change the building type or the rooms or the quality of the rooms or the size of the rooms or the height of the ground floor. Those are kinds of things that really add to quality as well. You know, I had asked Peyton earlier if we buried part of the floor on the first floor, I mean, could we reduce it to, say, 64 feet?
I think so, if we drop that first story down, like a 5-6 split, you know, we're 5 stories on the Statesville Road Avenue, 6 stories on the back, we could get that building height down. Again, it's not ideal, it does create some subfloor levels below grade, but I think that's what we have to do. I think we could work around it and at least take a good look at it.
I'm sorry, can somebody please do that math for me? Like, what is that in relation to, like, what we need? Does that make sense?
Still not close.
No, it'd be, if you took 64 and multiplied it by 3, you're at 192. And so we're still 100 feet from Lot 5. You know, you're going from 210 to 192. I mean, it doesn't solve the issue. Changing the building location solves the issue, but it is a concern to others. And so we are really got to the point where this was the location that and I believe Mr. Patel had spoken with many, many, many people. And the location here on Statesville was the unanimous location.
Yeah, we did look at rotating the building. We flipped and twisted this thing many, many different ways for those very concerns, trying to look at how we can get that separation distance. In the end, there was no better result than what we provided here at the end of the day.
And, you know, honestly, when we're looking at the location of it and where it is, it lines up exactly really with the Best Western, which is kind of an existing condition. And so he focused on the things that were important to the community members that he met with, his neighbors and friends. And one of those things was having the same street address as the Best Western. And another one was not allowing right turn out here and enhancing this buffer, putting in a 6-foot masonry wall, adding an 8-foot wooden fence along the side and the back. So, and, you know, also adding more mature trees as part of his enhanced buffer.
That buffer's very lacking today, so what we are proposing is a significant improvement on what's existing today out there. I don't know if we can go back to that picture. You guys have probably seen it multiple times, but there's very little vegetation. Yeah, here is on that rear street looking back out. You know, the hotel will provide some sound barrier and some visual barrier from I-77 and the car dealerships across the street.
You know, when you think about looking at this view, you know, you'll also have the 2 islands of trees in the parking islands. Plus, you'll have the 6-foot masonry wall and the trees around the perimeter of the parking lot at the top, plus all of the trees in the buffer itself. So it's a considerable improvement, at least over that.
So I think mine is just most like a comment. You know, one of the challenge or opportunity that I think we want to look at in Huntersville is, you know, bringing economic development, which is very important because we are very close to Shadow. And what happens is that most often, you know, towns like Huntersville and other neighboring cities are considered bedroom city for Shadow because the economic activity is going on in Shadow. So what this does is that, you know, it creates more economic, you know, impact for the town, people who work, employment, all those kinds of things. But I also want you to consider, you know, the neighbors, you know. So considering, you know, talking over with Hilton, how you can modify something like maybe if it's a story down, you know, that would be good. But we have to consider, you know, the character of the town, you know, like the Best Western, that's fine, and then city ordinance. So all those things has to be taken into consideration. But I think it's a good project, so we just need to work around and make sure that those things are put in place to, you know, take others into consideration.
I always believe in giving you a blessing.
No, go ahead. I was just looking at.
So have there been conversations with the community with regards to what the real objections are that they have? And obviously, everybody can simply say height, but what's the objections that they have? Is it that they can't see anymore? Is it they think it's too much noise? They think it's going to be some other issue? What are those objections, and what is the response back to those people with the objections you've heard?
Well, I think that is an excellent question. And I can't obviously speak for the people in the community who do not want this hotel here. But when he began the various discussions with the community members, their concerns were people who were coming to the hotel, driving around the neighborhood. That was the first one. So the no right turn sign here was an agreement that he had that he would put that here. And another one was that he would have a street address that is on Statesville Road and not on Dallas Street. And, you know, I think it was pointed out earlier, he does, you know, he could have connected to Hillcrest, and he did not do that. Those were that and the proximity of the hotel. If it were put, you know, in a different location, you know, those were the things that, you know, he addressed, and also with the buffer. So, you know, I know this because he came to our office several times. It said, you know, I've had these meetings, I want to change the plan, and here's what I want to change. And that doesn't usually happen. It's usually me saying, would you make these changes? And so that was a difference.
It's a question for town. What's the tallest building that we have outside of Burkdale? Yeah, the new town hall, other than that.
Town hall 60 feet. The tower's 400 feet. So.
The tower's 400.
South Wire.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, the South Wire Tower.
Easiest thing is the new town hall, 60 feet tall.
Yeah, the new town hall is 60 feet tall. But before that, like, the tallest thing was probably like Discovery Place Kids in the town.
That's 55 feet. We
That's
do have
50.
some in the 60s in the business park, some of the older buildings.
Mhm.
Spring Hill Suites around 60, 65 feet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around 70 feet. I mean, it just feels very large, even for, you know, a Highway 21 corridor. It feels very big. So, all right, just wondering.
And I'm just going to add, especially when you look at the ordinance and it says 35. When you're talking about doubling, sorry? 36, whatever. Yeah, we're in the 30s, right? And you're moving it to the 70s. Like, that's, sorry, math is not feeling me right now. But it just, you're doubling. It just feels extreme.
So when we did the hotel at Birkdale Crossing, that was, the hotel height on that one was 59 feet. You know, hotels typically, and the highway commercial building type doesn't really fit a hotel. So when we say 36 feet as a highway commercial, you know, the ordinance itself doesn't say in highway commercial zoning, you can only have a 36-foot high building. But what it says is if you have a highway commercial building type, it can only be 36 feet. I would say that hotels really are not a highway commercial building like a gas station or, you know, a Food Lion. That would just be my comment about that.
And just to add to that, if they were to pick a different building type, say the urban workplace, that puts you at 48 feet. So it's a choice. Previously, before we did change to the CZ rezoning style of government about a year and a half ago, you used to have to go through that special use permit for these hotels, which allowed for that increase in height. Again, the boards had all asked us to limit those SUPs, so we went through the CD process, and that's why this is the proper tool to use today.
No,
It's just an exception.
And I appreciate that because, you know, I do have trouble with saying it's 36 feet. That's actually not what the ordinance says about a hotel. When that special use permit provision was removed, it was replaced with conditional zoning. And the idea was that if you're going to have a hotel, it can be a higher hotel, but the conditional zoning process is the appropriate one to come up with a quality of design. And so that's really what we're trying to achieve here. And we're not just trying to achieve that in terms of the look of the building, which is this look, but we're also trying to achieve it in terms of a lot of the elements of the design that you do not have in hotels now. So.
Can you go back to the aerial? And this is a hypothetical question for the staff. I'm sorry, two back that you were at, where we were showing the distance, or go back, I'm sorry. Stop right there. Hypothetical. If lot 5 and 6 were incorporated into this project and was just treated as green space, would they meet the ordinance and the height be approved?
They would, yeah. Because they would meet the requirements of the 3 times the height,
Okay.
spacing.
That's what I thought. I'm just trying to get, I'm really trying to understand what the site constraints are here that is limiting their ability to develop what they want to. And I'm not discounting lot 5 or 6 by any means. I'm just trying to understand that, again, if they were incorporated, then they would meet the ordinance standards. Okay.
Michael?
This is just an observation. I think as a town and as a zoning board, we're seeing some of the conflicts that's going to inevitably continue. The conflicts is that we're building a huge amount of density in our downtown with no hotels. That's your challenge. We can say what we want, but in the end, the reason you're going to see these hotel proposals pop up is because people who are living in these apartments and condos and townhomes that are all downtown, the ones that we're approving that are being built like crazy, are going to have folks, guests and visitors, and they're going to come in town and say, where can I stay? And many of them will say, I will not stay at the Best Western. I will not stay at the Super 8. Where can I stay? And the closest ones we're going to say is 4 miles that way. So that's the challenge, that we have to really address. I mean, we don't like what we see, but the reality is as the expression goes, we brought this on ourselves.
Can I just clarify real quick my previous statement? While we would still likely approve that, they would still need a modification to go above the 3 stories up to their proposed stories. Yeah, this time we would just be in support if that were the case.
Okay. Oh, you're muting? Oh, you got a question?
I'm ready for a motion, but we
Okay.
can continue conversation. Or questions, I guess.
Any
We
more
can-
questions?
Then we can get into discussion.
Okay.
Staff, can you find me the slide on the modifications? I think you've got a slide on modification. Hopefully I won't butcher this. Motion. In considering the proposed rezoning application, R2507, Home to Hilton, the planning board recommends approval based on the plan being consistent with policies LU 6.2, LU 5.1, LU 2.1, and EV2, which specifically states, encourage existing economic assets and entrepreneurial business development. Approval is subject to and shall include the modifications listed in staff report. Also subject to the applicant working with the staff to agree on buffer details. It is reasonable and in the public interest to approve the rezoning plan because it supports an existing small business in Huntersville, will provide needed alternative hospitality options for existing Huntersville businesses, and will provide a renovated and improved existing hospitality property in Huntersville.
Second.
Motion, second, discussion. Scott, you want to?
I guess I'll start us. I don't take it lightly that, we have some adjoining parcels that will be negatively affected by it, but I do sit there and look at it. They're already affected by the Best Western. So I find some balance in that, yes, it's no greater. And also, I think Michael said it, that, some of these amenities are required, and we're going to continue to see more and more density. And again, I've said this, there's limited sites to be developed in Huntersville, and, we can continue to see more sprawl, or we can find density on what we do have. Other pros, I think getting an upgraded Best Western during this process is huge. I think that's a big deal. I like the idea that it's a shared driveway on Highway 21. But anyway, those are my reasons for supporting it.
Thank you. Michael, second.
I think I expressed it earlier about the economics of it. I think that does weigh significantly because, again, we've generated an environment that creates a demand for these kind of products. And the real question is, at what point do we have an opportunity to actually acquire products like this in the general area? Again, it's not to in any way suggest that the people who are impacted by this is being belittled, but it simply acknowledges that the environment that we're in. That's the reason one of the first things I said is that, Statesville Road is a high-density corridor. And when you got high-density corridors next to an interstate, next to a major east-west corridor called Gilead Road, it generates a very specific set of demands. And I would suggest to you that this is just one of the areas that we have to be realistic about in terms of what will be able to address the demand in that area. So with that, I'm supportive of it.
I came in ready to vote a hard no on it, and I've gone back and forth over the last 45 minutes. I mean, I can see the benefits of it, the upgrade of the Best Western. It seems like he's trying to do the right thing as far as the shared driveway and not turn it into the neighborhood. I'll have to take their word for it on reaching out to the neighbors, and but my heart goes out to the neighborhood with a 70-story building in your backyard. I feel like we've been talking about 40-story buildings in the backyard, and I've been kind of on the fence on that, maybe a 50-story hotel, a 50-foot hotel, but a 70-foot building is very big. And I get it. I did the math on the Boone Home to Suites. It's 70,000 square feet. You guys are trying to get to 72,000 square feet on this one. I just wish we could lower it down by at least one floor and get closer to that 50, 55 number as opposed to 70. It feels like it would fit a little bit better just in the town as a whole. 70 is going to stand out.
I don't disagree that we need a hotel there. I absolutely agree, and I love the idea of the Best Western getting the upgrade, but the height is truly the issue for me. If I'm somebody that I've said this over and over on this dais, the exception becomes the rule. And so if we say, okay, 70 for you, well, now that's where we're going to be at for all the buildings. And it's not just looking at your project, it's looking at all the other ones that follow. So for me, I have to be a no because it doesn't fit the character of the rest of the buildings in the town, not just that particular location.
I can't support this as well. I've got to protect some of the Greenfield Park residents. Again, they've been encroached on before with Holbrooks 1, as you know, going down into a GR neighborhood, the oldest in Huntersville, and rezoning it. It's a great product. We need it for economic development. Yes, it's just round peg, square hole for me. It's too high. It's still too close to the residents. I'm sure, you know, attempt was made to turn that land over too, but I did look through the letters of support. There's only one in here that's somebody that's actually in Greenfield Park. And there's two sections of them. The second section's all auto-pinned, so they didn't put their address on there, but I know all the roads in that neighborhood and one. And we heard two speakers speak tonight against it. The comparison, because Best Western's already there, well, the Best Western's only 3 stories. And yes, it's already there. And it was approved under a different set of ordinances. The people that are there, you know, knew what the ordinances were when they bought their place and then saw them change. So, you know, they thought they were protected, and now we're saying, well, maybe you're not. Even like you pointed out, the example given, the elevation or the photo that was a 4-story in Asheville. So still, we're trying to kind of hide the fact that, yeah, this thing's going to be 7 stories. It's just, you know, it's too much to be impacting one of our oldest neighborhoods, so I cannot support it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a close call for me. But at the end of the day, I really do feel like there's maybe a little bit more that can be done to drop the height. I know that, I think that there's, you know, if push comes to shove, if Hilton's really serious about offering this product here, I think there's some wiggle room. I'm a little uncomfortable not knowing what the actual proposed height is currently as designed. So, you know, I would be in support of this, I think, if we had a little bit more certainty. But I realize at this stage that, you know, design is expensive, and that's a whole process, but it's really just come down to the height for me. So if there's any way to drop that height, I think I would be in support of this project.
Yeah, mine is similar. You know, we just consider the neighbors. So if we can reduce it a little bit, one story down, if we can consider that, you know, we will support this. So if you can work with staff and making sure that, you know, that is considered, I think we will, you know, support you.
Staff?
The applicant has approached us and can come down to 64 feet.
Okay.
It's considerable.
I can amend my motion to make one of the conditions that the height will not exceed 64 feet. Who seconded it?
Michael.
We second it.
Any thoughts? I mean, it's, you know, I look at it, it's the right use there, right on the road. Yeah, it's at the height. I mean, it is at the limit, and, you know, like it's been said, you know, does it keep creeping up? I appreciate the 64 feet. I mean, it's a little bit, it helps. I also appreciate working with the neighbors, the buffers, the addition in the buffers. I feel like they have tried to accommodate this as best they can with what they have in front of them. And I would support the 64 feet. Other discussion? We're ready to call vote. Okay, all of those in favor? Those opposed? 1, 2, 3. What's that? 3 against. Yeah. Okay, we got it. Thank you very much. Did you all want to take a 5-minute break quickly? Or are you ready to keep on moving? Keep going, okay. At the finish line. Okay, the last item, or the next item, consider a recommendation on petition R-2509, request by Greenway Waste Solutions to North Mech to rezone plus or minus 220.9 acres near 15300 Holbrooks Road from Special Purpose Conditional District, SPCD, Neighborhood Residential NR, Transitional Residential TR, and Corporate Business CB to Special Purpose Conditional District, SPCD. The purpose of the rezoning is to expand the North Mech landfill. Mr. Priest, you've been patiently waiting.
Good evening. No problem at all. Just enjoying the discussion. So I'll put my staff report into the record. And so yes, the application before us is a conditional district rezoning amendment, really, because this is a rezoning for a site that already has a conditional rezoning and is looking to come and amend that conditional rezoning site plan to expand some properties and to change the conditions of the existing rezoning. So it's really in 2 parts. You've got the rezoning aspect, but you've also got a special use permit that is required. This is for the Greenway Waste landfill expansion, on Holbrooks Road. Again, I'm kind of summarizing the public hearing from earlier in the month, but they're looking to expand the landfill. And so 2 parts, rezoning and a special use permit. Tonight is only dealing with the rezoning aspect. So the special use permit will be handled by the town board, tentatively scheduled for October 21st. So just a lay of the land, again, not trying to, stay too long on the aspects that we talked about at the public hearing, but the landfill is at the easternmost part of Holbrooks Road to the south. So you've got the landfill, and you've got the Vermilion subdivision to the north of Holbrooks. Way down to the south, you've got Commerce Station with the rezoning plan that you guys just saw and was approved a few months ago for the big box warehouse that they were proposing to expand Commerce Station Drive there to the south there. Just a highlight on what the application is. The application really is to expand property to the west in order to move the stream that currently runs through the landfill. To the north, you see the current stream in dark green, and to the bottom picture, you see the new location of the stream, and where the red arrow is, that would be an abandoned stream. And then in the hatched area, I'm going to draw, this will work, this area here, you would have additional fill into the landfill. So it's an expansion almost internally, right? So they're not proposing to expand laterally or east-west or north-south out of their limits per se, but the expansion is to remove the stream and fill where the old stream was. No buildings are proposed. So in order to do that, there are some modifications to the ordinance that are needed. The currently technically still exists there. So until they go through the permits with the county, until they get all those permits done, the stream still exists where it is. And so approving a rezoning and a special use permit with the stream still there, there's some modifications in order to make that happen. Some of the buffers are being disturbed, the SP buffers in addition to that, so a modification is needed there, and the applicants are asking not to fence in the entire landfill. So that's a modification as well. Holbrooks Road, so Holbrooks Road, again, a quick history through the development of the landfill. It's existed since 1993. So as the landfill has been used, it's used Holbrooks Road as an access. Article 9.23 addresses the requirements for construction and demolition landfills, one of which is that they have to be accessed through a commercial street or a thoroughfare and not a residentially oriented street. So this has kind of been like a non-conforming situation for some time. So the town has been working on trying to help and find ways to get the applicant and the landfill off of Holbrooks onto a different street. So back in 2016, when the current special use permit and conditional rezoning was approved, there were conditions that were approved that limited the use of the landfill to using Holbrooks no later than 2034. That was the threshold date where they needed to find an alternative access, and they agreed to that. Additionally, if an access became available within 1 year, then they would change their access to that new access. So if you recall the new rezoning that was done, they're proposing to come and stub to the south. So if they come and construct prior to 2034, it would be required that the applicants, Greenway Waste, make that connection within the year currently. So staff is asking for those conditions to be rolled over, to the new rezoning here. And then also looking at the durability, one of the conditions was staff and NCDOT, the town board wanted us to look at the durability, the condition of the road to see what needed to be done in regard to maintenance. We're currently doing that. Staff had a meeting just this week with NCDOT. They're going to go and talk to their maintenance team and come up with some recommendations in regard to what we can do to better maintain and ask the applicant to help maintain. So that's currently a work in progress there. Now, just some site design updates in regard to the rezoning plan. This is in the staff report, so I won't go into too much detail. But the current plan at the public hearing, we needed to address the Greenway plan. The applicants have added a note to state that they are going to build a multi-use path along their frontage on Holbrooks Road. So that's good, that accommodates a need. They also added a note on the plan to accommodate that proposed north-south connector street to say that once staff identifies the location, they would reserve that right-of-way and include enough right-of-way to have a north-south Greenway connection as shown in the Greenway plan. So those notes kind of take care of that situation in the proposed rezoning plan. Also updated the ULI study, the Urban Land Institute, and the East Huntersville Small Area Plan called for some residential, again, Holbrooks has been a residential street for quite some time. So those plans that we have in our library essentially call for Holbrooks Road to remain and stay residential in nature. So the applicants did change their rezoning boundaries to back off of rezoning the entire properties to leave some room for residential along Holbrooks. So though that's a good thing, I think that was something that was necessary to really be consistent with our long-range plan, so they did that. Still working with the applicant to get some notes to identify specifically where specific uses are around the development to make sure we're concrete on what uses are proposed where, and then also making sure the 80-foot buffer along that new residential area along Holbrooks is accommodated. So still working on that. 2040 plan, this graphic shows the area proposed. So a lot of it, the existing landfill is employment center. So that's consistent with your warehousing, your industrial, where you have the special purpose zoning district and where the landfill is really supposed to be. So that's a consistent character area. The the residential, the medium density there along Holbrooks, that's where the applicants have recently changed the plan to save some of that residential along the Holbrooks Road corridor. So we think that fits there. The parks and open space, that was back in the time where the town owned that property, and there was a general plan to perhaps turn that into a park, but the town has since sold that to the applicant. And they've got some potential plans to use this for industrial development in the future, which would probably be appropriate per the ULI study that recommended that type of use in that location. So consistent policies, again, just mentioned the future land use map. All those uses, especially with the updates, are consistent with LLU 1.1 and using that future character map. EOS 5, protecting water quality. Again, having a stream go through a landfill is not the best for water quality, right? So redirecting that out is a win for surface water quality. Inconsistent policies that we're working on, again, so focus more intense development in locations that can support growth. We're really in a situation where Holbrooks Road is not ideal to have access for the heavy trucks and going through residential areas. So the applicants are working on that, so that's a work in progress. Same goes for LU 11, protecting existing housing stock. Again, the residential developments that have been on Holbrooks for a long time are dealing with that truck traffic going through there, changing the character a little bit. So working on getting that, again, taken care of. EOS 1, preservation enhancement of the environment. This is something where we're going to have to work through the special use permit because the site does have some chemical contamination on the site and cleanup is underway. So we're asking the applicant and working with the applicant to show evidence of the cleanup and evidence that the location of the new stream and additional fill in that location is not going to hurt the environment generally. So that special use permit is we're working on that information and accumulating that information from the applicant. So staff's recommendation, again, from a zoning perspective, you know, the principles of the ordinance are we've kind of agreed to most of them. It's just a matter of getting the plan correct, right? So we've got a few things to correct there, and then with the condition also that the SUP is approved by the town board, because that would be an important one there. I won't go through the list, but those are in your staff report as well. Also, Clay Heath from our engineering department is here. So if you've got questions about the stormwater, about the moving of the stream, any of that, please ask him those questions, because he's been patiently sitting here as well to help you guys and answer any questions you have. So we appreciate Clay being here for us as well. The applicant is here, and they have a presentation if you'd like to hear that also.
Thank you. First of all, questions for staff. We'll start there.
So just kind of slowly walk us through what has already been approved permitting-wise besides our board, and what has not been approved. I'm not real sure I follow all the approvals and not approvals yet.
So the first approvals that the applicant, no approvals from the town have been received. Nothing. So, but what we did ask, because this is a large project and it's kind of a very unique project, we've asked them to really start looking at the feasibility and trying to get permits from the state to understand if this is even feasible, right? To move a stream. It's the largest we've ever seen. So what they did, they went to the state and they've got what's called the 401 and 404 permit to basically get permission from the state to go into a stream and disturb. And Clay would be able to answer a lot more questions about that. But those are the two permits that have been received right now that I understand. Is that correct? Correct. Army Corps and the state manage it.
Right.
Clarify that.
Yeah, so they have both the 401 and the 404 approved already for the impacts to the stream itself and some wetlands that are also on site.
You're saying just for the impacts, but is that to actually move the stream? What's the process to move the stream?
So there are a couple things that will be needed to move the stream. The first of which being the SFPs and modifications from the town. The 401, the 404 are kind of a piece in the puzzle of all the different permits that would be needed to do that.
And does that include also the swim buffers as well?
Correct. So, yeah. So one of the modifications that they're asking for is the modification to the swim buffer impact itself. So that's something that there would also be needed to impact them.
And are these assessments or actually permit approvals as in a formal approval process?
So the 401 and the 404 are approvals that they have obtained already.
To do what? I'm sorry, I'm a little slow. It's a little late.
Yeah, to impact the stream itself, as well
So
as
it's okay to move it?
for the impact for the existing stream. Yes.
Okay.
So some other things that would still be needed would be an erosion control plan from the town to do the work on site, a stormwater assessment through the county to see what the impacts of moving it would be.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll ask a little differently then. Is there also a portion in there to talk about the impact study, the impact of actually moving stream? Where is that taken into account? Somebody's got to be looking and say, here's what it's going to do if we move the stream.
Right. So some of the impacts of what it would, I guess the impacts to the floodplain. That would be,
I would think somebody would ask for an impact study to be presented to say, here's what it does when you move the stream in this manner.
right. So we can see the impacts from a couple of different things. So there is a component of the greater floodplain and the drainage area of where the stream.
I'm not asking what it is. I'm asking if anybody's done a formal study to say, here's what happened when if you've got an engineer to go out and say, here's what's going to happen. Okay. That's what I was trying to figure out, if it is approval by them, or to go do the study and say, okay,
So
you've
yes.
clarified my
So
question.
the study on the
Thanks.
stream impacts is done, and they have the approval
Got
of
it.
that study.
To go study it.
They've done the study and they have the approval for it.
For bulldozers. Got it. Okay, thanks. Sorry.
So just a little more in the nuance of, one, how are they keeping their runoff out of the stream as it's currently located, but once they relocate it, what does that look like? How do they keep stormwater runoff coming out of the landfill from coming into the stream? Is that like a cutoff wall or something? What does that look like to have a landfill that close to the stream?
So the proposed landfill does have some measures to capture and detain, any leachate or runoff from the landfill. The applicant might be better suited to answer some of those questions.
I'd say too that part of the application is new swim buffer, right? So if you see the area, my big fat green arrows are kind of covering it, but there's green and orange area there that is swim buffer. So there'd be vegetation and that kind of thing. So they would take swim buffer and then reestablish it in addition to the stream.
If I understand it correctly right now, that existing stream is already piped, right?
No.
That is not piped?
The dark green one is open.
Okay, it is
The
open.
natural stream.
Okay.
The light green one is piped.
Understood. Thank you.
Prince?
Yes, so I think there have been some chemical, seeping into the ground, and have there been any comprehensive health assessment done to understand the impact for residents in the area? And now that you want to add another landfill expansion, so have there been one?
So they are working with North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, NCDEQ, on the contamination cleanup. So they're working on that, and they're actively mitigating and trying to clean that up. Now, they can talk to, in regard to the special use permit, staff is kind of asking for that information in regard to, okay, we know there's existing contamination, we change the stream, then we add fill on top, how does that affect, right? So that is during the special use permit process, we're going to answer those questions and then have them present those answers to the town board.
we want to see that first to understand what's going on as to the extent of the contamination before we talk about improving, or maybe extending new expansion. Don't you think we should consider that first?
Yes, yes, and from the staff perspective, that's why the recommendation for approval is conditioned on that special use permit being approved. And during that process, we would expect those questions to be answered. Now, yeah, that's gonna have to be submitted, and we'll review it, and then the town board will be able to look at it to see and make sure those questions are answered appropriately.
Theoretically, we could approve this tonight, and then the special use permit gets denied, and then nothing would happen.
Correct.
Okay, that makes me feel much better, thank you.
It's both, they need both.
Questions for staff?
Yeah, we'll go back to the contaminants. So apparently, some testing was done to find the contaminants that were there now. So I assume there's a regular testing regimen and schedule and all that stuff that would find any of these things on a regular basis.
Yes, it's very, they've been working with DEQ for years. There's monitoring wells throughout the site, and the applicants can go into that detail, but they understand, and things are getting better on the site. It's just that question becomes, with these very large changes and with additional fill, how does that affect? And that's what we're trying to understand, and we don't know at this point, and we're working with the applicant on that.
And this is a lined landfill, right? It's lined, right?
I don't think it is. The applicants can answer those questions. I'm not qualified to answer those questions.
So with the, okay. So with the redirection of the stream, so how, do we know whether that will be affecting maybe the chemical contamination? Is there any way you can tell whether it is within that distance or that radius, or how do you know?
In regard to how does the stream moving affect it?
Yes, like the current contamination, how does that affect like the redirection of the stream? Do you know?
No. So that would be my answer right now, but that is a question we posed to the applicant because that would change the hydrology, and some of the contamination is groundwater. So changing the hydrology of the stream, the question becomes, where does the groundwater go? Do monitoring wells need to be in different locations? Those are general questions that staff has asked, and we have similar questions.
So that's what I think, there's a lot of work to be done first. So if that can be done, then we understand how we're moving forward, because I think first thing first, that understand what the implications are, and then we can be able to make decision on that. So I think we do not have enough information right here to, be making decision.
Prince, it's two separate things. So this is just us discussing whether or not this is allowed, the land use, but then there's going to be a whole other hearing, and I mean, there's going to be a whole other section to discuss the environmental impact. So what we decide tonight isn't going to have that same impact that you're discussing, that you're saying.
Okay, do we want to hear from the owners? You can come on up to the podium and state your name, please.
Thank you. My name's Mike Griffin, Griffin Brothers Companies. Thank you for your time, especially tonight, a long night, and thank you for your service to the town. And thanks to Brad, Brian, and Clay, and the staff for helping. I'm going to blaze through this because this some portion was at the public hearing, but a family business started in 1961, deep roots in Long Creek. Father went to Long Creek in North Meck, and I went to elementary, first grade at Long Creek. I'm here really to talk about our involvement in Greenway Waste Solutions. We've been entrusted with management of construction waste in North Meck for almost 4 decades. Technically, this site started in the 80s as a land clearing inert debris facility, and in 94 it was converted to C&D. And I won't spend too much time explaining what is Greenway Waste Solutions, except to say C&D, again, I'm going to try to blaze through this. But there are 5 sections that we'll go through, but we accept construction and demolition debris only, not household waste, not asbestos, et cetera. And as you can see, what we include with materials. We do have a state-of-the-art MRF, which is called Material Recovery Facility. As Brad mentioned, that was approved in 2016, and that's operational now, and we're proud of that. This is the most advanced MRF facility that manages C&D in the state. So how do we fit in the community? And that's a lot of discussion, I guess, more about rezoning. So I thought I'd just start quickly with a regional map. Back before 2000, the leaders of the town designated Commerce Station as an opportunity for industrial development. And actually, it's an interlocal agreement when that's owned by the town of Huntersville, Cornelius, and Davidson. And we are attached to that, as you can see in this map. And some of the land, as Brad mentioned, that we own, we look forward to keeping residential in Holbrooks. But you can kind of see regionally, I think the vision, Brighton was more mixed use. This is going to be more industrial. And we also provide buffer around other things that are going to happen. As a point of interest, Holbrooks Road back in the 50s, 60s, 70s was a garbage landfill, unlined garbage landfill that the county ran. So Holbrooks Road has always had some waste facility. And that was a pretty negative plight in history because predominantly Pottstown was African-American community and they dumped in the back of that. Sam Battaglia, who's a native Pottstown resident who started our facility, and we partnered with him in the 80s, as we mentioned. We're very proud of our partnership with the community. So back in 2000, went to all 25 residents of the Pottstown community that live in Holbrooks. We created a partnership. As you can see, over now the decades, there's been attrition. So as of 2020, I think there's now 14 of the 25 residents that remain. But we're proud of our affiliation with the Holbrooks Road Community Association, a nonprofit. We've contributed $1 million to that nonprofit that's gone towards scholarships, hundreds of neighborhood improvements, but also very proud of us continuing to manage senior citizens as far as cutting their lawns and having weekly pick up debris up and down Holbrooks. So we're proud of the condition of Holbrooks and its current form. As you can see from this letter, recently the current Holbrooks Road chairperson wrote a nice letter recognizing the things that we do, not just monetarily, but also for the community. The road partnership has been going on for more than a quarter century as well. We paid for the Veerhoff Extension Drive in hopes that would be our solution to get off Holbrooks. We paid for that study in 2000. We've repaid for repairing potholes and improving the shoulders through the 90s, much more formalized in the 2000s, including adding a right turn lane, contributing to town to help improvements. And then also, just as a quick reminder, our customers, our haulers, they pay a pretty high highway tax fee for roads. And we did an analysis. They're specific to the debris they brought us for the life of our facility. They have contributed more than $4 million to North Carolina highway fuel tax. And then we've contributed $400,000 ourselves directly for the management of Holbrooks Road. Area heights. So this is kind of interesting. I know heights was the discussion today with the hotel. So the topography in the East Huntersville area is interesting. So there are natural heights of 820, 840, 830. The tower was mentioned too. That's 1250, which is a different animal. But our height existing now, if we closed without this expansion, would be 820. So that's why it's not really visible from the community. If we have approval in 40 plus years, it would get to 865, so another 25 feet on top of the current. 45 feet on top of the current. So why are we vital? Obviously, we talked a lot about growth, and growth is continued to come. That upper thing where Mecklenburg County is expected to increase 400,000 new residents between 2020 and 2040, and 200,000. If you study how Mecklenburg County has grown, South Meck grew first, and it's pretty dense. North Meck still has more upside growth than South Meck, so we would anticipate even more growth coming to north versus south as a result of the open space that we have here. The current waste management within the county there's two facilities. There's our facility, probably owned by my family, and the county-owned facility, which is in the southernmost part of the county near Ballantyne, called Foxhole. So we always say, what happens if we go away? Well, there is a facility that we own in Harrisburg in Cabarrus County, and there is a facility with 7 years remaining in Lincoln County on that side of the lake. So if we were to go away, obviously we have more than 7 years capacity, so that landfill would most likely go away. So the waste would come to our Harrisburg facility or go further into Foxhole. So we did analysis of what that would mean. With the obvious heavier impact of truck traffic on the key roads, as I mentioned, but also air pollution. So having our type facility minimizes that, because the way C&D waste works, it's one container in front of a house or a commercial property being built. That has to be picked up and taken directly to a landfill. It's not consolidated like household waste is. So that one pool allows us to do analysis. So we did estimate another 725,000 annual miles of truck traffic would be generated for non-existence. And by arithmetic, that's 2.4 million cubic CO2, additional pounds of CO2 that would be in the atmosphere. And illegal dumping was more commonplace if you don't have convenient sites for waste. So what's next for us in conversation? Brad did a great job really explaining what we're doing, but I did want to kind of use a little bit more animation to better explain the technical stuff. And also, I'm happy that we have Todd Gingrich. One, if I screw up, he's my engineer to tell me where I screwed up, but two, he'll get a lot more technical with the constituents that were mentioned. I did want to talk about the cell tower that was approved a few months ago. The tower's up. AT&T would be first to have service. So if you live in Vermillion, AT&T is probably your better option. Soon after Verizon and T-Mobile will most likely be there. Our land is noted in magenta, and you can see cell 1, which is closed, and cell 2, which is active. And I'm going to do some more animations. One, Veerhoff Drive study that we approved, that's where the alignment approximately would be, but as we know now, it ends at Southwire. Also, stormwater regional management. The unnamed tributary that runs through our property overall manages about 350 acres of stormwater, and that's important to do. As mentioned, we've already received the approvals from the key folks. Obviously, they did a tremendous amount of due diligence, and I will contend and we will prove during the SUP that we're actually enhancing the stormwater management and the surface water management. So as you can see now, it runs through between cell 1 and cell 2. This would eliminate that and would eliminate the piping under cell 2, and it would put it around the landfill instead of through it. And that is a tremendous improvement too for environmental stewardship of our site. But it also gives us that chance of what you see labeled cell 3. We'll be able to put a lined facility between the two cells and be able to capture the future growth of North Mech in a much more advanced designed cell structure. And there was a question about is cell 1 and cell 2 lined? They are not lined with synthetic membranes. Even at this moment, C&D landfills aren't required to do that. This is something we're voluntarily doing with cell 3. It was mentioned too, the approval recently of the warehouses that will go south of us in Commerce Station. That's given us this wonderful opportunity to get off Holbrooks Road. So as you can see, I think there's one more animation. The trucks will come off Holbrooks, and the only access from Holbrooks would be for emergencies. It would be gated, and there would not be any access for employees and customers to come that way. All of our traffic would come off Veerhoff, Commerce Station Drive, and to the drives around the new warehouse that's being approved. I did talk to the applicant that's building that, and they're expecting to close in November and start construction in January. So they're actually going through the county process to pull permits. So that's just the update I got this afternoon. The thing I do want to talk about, as Brad mentioned, we do own a good bit of land on Holbrooks Road. That yellow that you see is land that we own that's not part of the landfill operations. There's two little lots that we don't own, and as you can see, a little further to the, technically to the west, there is a subdivided development that's never been built beside Waymer Fields. So we would obviously want to work with those landowners, and we are horizontal developers. We've been doing this for 30 years. We would want to collaborate and partner with them and show that the sum's greater than the parts, and come back to the town with a collaborative master plan that would include all that land. So I'll just kind of show it in this kind of pinkish color. I have already met with some of the Pottstown legacy families that have some ownership in those lots, and I found out recently that Nate Bowman owns a few. I don't really do business with him, but we'll look to try to figure out how to do a collaborative master plan to figure this out. The last subject is the Greenway Trail enhancements. This is something we've been involved with since that ULI study that we helped fund in 2017. The current plan through that study was to have that Greenway follow the tributary that we're redesigning and hit into Cane Creek and go up. We're super excited to say that we would want to offer what we would consider a quicker and much more improved plan, and that would be to have that greenway follow Holbrooks, all the way from the Waymer Fields to the Fly Fields to Cane Creek. And ultimately, that runs into South Prong, Clark Creek. So Cane Creek runs into that, just as FYI. So this is something we would want to introduce as a master plan. So that would be a 10-foot wide multimodal path that would connect the fields. More importantly, add sidewalks to the Pottstown Legacy community that doesn't have sidewalks. You know, the Vermillion thing's kind of got a hodgepodge of sidewalks, but they're not all connected. This way it'd be completely connected from the Waymer facilities to the creek and add a nice enhancement. Most of that would obviously be coming back to the town for the collaborative master plan. But as Brad mentioned, the parcels that would be currently affected as a result of this proposal, we would do that as a part of this, but we'd hopefully have it all coordinated together. Just another cross-section of what this would look like. As you can see, cell 1, or phase 1, phase 2, or we call cell 1, cell 2, those are existing. This would be filling in between. As you can see, the first 10 years, we'd kind of start at that 680 mean sea level and come up, 70 feet, and you would keep coming up to eventually we would hit a peak of the 865s I've referenced. As you can see how that would be designed. All that area in purple would be lined. It's almost like the kind of equivalent of a bathtub. Any water that would hit waste would be captured through a pretty sophisticated system that you'll see in another slide, and that would be taken to a tank, to a basically huge tank, and it would be monitored, and then it would properly be discharged in the proper way. So totally different state-of-the-art system. Todd will probably help me here, but I do want to recognize this, I think is slide 20, that was modified. We shared, I think Brad shared this slide with DEQ. We also shared a letter that Todd wrote to Brad in preparation for the SUP, and there was some clarities that were made. So I think the question, groundwater is tested twice a year, which is important to understand. Interesting thing about groundwater in our region, it moves roughly 5 feet per year in this region. So with our minimum buffer of 200 feet, there's a 40 years to remediate any type of significant problems that may happen. Obviously, DEQ would respond way quicker than they don't wait. They wait days, not years, to respond to some issue. A good example, a decade ago, we had a small trace of a constituent called vinyl chloride. Actually, this is not the newest slide, Brad, but I can explain the differences. This was the slide from the public thing. But that's fine. That's fine. I kind of did, so per DEQ's recommendation, they did want me to give more information. That was one that even though we have 40 years to remediate a problem, the remediation process happens immediately if there's a groundwater test that shows there is a problem. The one, which was vinyl chloride a decade ago, we spent over $1 million putting in a remediation system that included methane extraction, and as also as a precautionary measure, the 3 closest estate homes to the south of our property, we added water and sewer at about $250,000 just to be extra precautious. We were able to remediate that constituent below regulatory standards as of the most recent test. And I'm going to let Todd come up and give much more detail. But before he does, I want to just give you a relative understanding. Often we talk about 1 parts per billion. So if you've got, and just to give you an idea, 1 billion drops of water is an Olympic-sized pool. So sometimes our standard is to make sure that any constituent is below 1 part per billion. In other words, it's below 1 drop of water in a whole Olympic-sized pool. And that's the extent of that. Well, hopefully what we can do is answer questions in the, I thought I was going to go quicker, but I didn't. But hopefully we'll be able to answer questions related to water quality and highlight the things that the county's done as far as DEQ's done with water quality and the support we have from the river keepers. Thank you for your time. Apologize for taking so long.
Thank you. Okay, do we have questions?
Yeah, so currently you're C&D, you're not lined. Is there any aspiration to go away from C&D now that you're going to be lined and have such a robust system?
No.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I think by this SUP process, it would be well understood that it would just stay construction and demolition. And any change like that would require a new approval by the town. and obviously approvals by DEQ.
This is more of the logistics question, like, so C&D, right, you put a dumpster out, and it's supposed to all just be wood and lumber, and, you know, occasionally somebody throws some household trash in there. How do you capture that? And I assume that has something to do with that high-tech facility where you're separating some stuff out?
Yeah, great question. So probably 95% of our business comes from the same haulers, you know, that manage construction and new construction houses. So when they pick it up, obviously they do a quick glance at what they're picking up. If there's been a pretty big violation, they take that waste straight to the MSW facility, and the closest one is at Charlotte Motor Speedway, run by Republic. So if there's been what I would define as negligence, where somebody's put the wrong product in the container, they wouldn't bring it to us. Now, when they bring it to us, they have a tarp, and the tarp comes off, and we have cameras, so we can also make sure they're not bringing in the wrong thing. So that's kind of the second point of check. First, the customer, and their second. If our weighmaster sees there's a mistake, they just U-turn them back out, and they go. The third check is when they come to our facility, whether it's the C&D MRF, and if it's some contaminants, we'll just pull that out as a courtesy to them, and we'll have them pay to take it to MSW at a later point. And again, on a worst-case scenario, if that hauler goes straight to our open-face facility, our operators on the bulldozers would see that, and they two-way back to the scale house and say, you know, that person needs to come back up. And we have bulldozers there to load it back up. So there's kind of a multi-check, because, you know, we pride in our airspace is cubic yards of space, and we'll, obviously over time, we're going to fill it up one way or the other. We want to make sure it's the right, is this our approved type waste. So those are kind of the measures how we try to prevent any wrong things going.
Yeah.
Can you go back a few slides back? Something I saw. I just
One of the maps.
just go back a little bit. Let me see. A little bit. Okay, somewhere here.
Is this one?
Yes, this one.
Sure.
Yeah, you said groundwater moves like roughly 5 feet per year. And so, can you explain down what you have recently? You have some immersion, like 600 feet.
Sure.
Across the
I'm glad you
property
said-
line.
That was one of my mistakes I made in the presentation. That statement is slightly incorrect. So basically, the monitor wells in question, where we had a constituent that showed up, was actually more than 500 feet, not more than 600 feet. So that was one of the errors I meant to correct. But just by arithmetic, even that's true, it still gives us more than 100 years to remediate the issue. And I'm going to let Todd jump in about that specific issue and what we're doing to manage that.
So there's about 45 monitoring wells all around the site, and so twice a year we have to monitor it. And so prior to 2019, there was a hit of vinyl chloride. This is one of the constituents. It's just a byproduct from landfill decomposition. So as a result of that, we were getting positive indications in, maybe half a dozen of the wells put in the system in 2019, pretty much right when DEQ, we saw there was an issue. Most recently for vinyl chloride at least, there's only one well that maybe will test positive every 2 or 3 years out of the 40 wells. So we've really reduced that, right? And so when we say test positive, the limit of vinyl chloride is 1 part per billion in the concentration, right? So we may be 2 parts per billion or maybe 1.1 parts per billion. And they actually set that requirement at the lowest level you could detect with equipment. So these are small, when we talk about concentrations and contaminants, it's important just to have some kind of context to it. What I'd say is we're really proud of what we've done at the facility, since 2019, specifically with vinyl chloride. But over time, you find there's new chemicals that may be byproducts of waste. And you may have heard some of these. PFAS is one of them, which is also known as a forever chemical. It's in Gore-Tex, it's in food packaging, it's in Scotchgard, furniture, all kinds of stuff that could be, and it's really in a lot of places, right? So there's PFAS, and then there's 1,4-dioxide, which is another byproduct of chemical reactions. have been detected, and these are constituents that DEQ really has just started asking us to test for in the last few years. So we're going to be one of the first ones in the state really to move forward with this in-ground treatment system. We're working with a company called Regenesis, who's done this all over the world, 40,000 different sites. Basically a way that you can treat the groundwater in place with you're injecting carbon, essentially filters in the ground. So the wells that were hot that we may have been hit by, we'll put, the material in there. And then we also put, like a downstream barrier. Imagine lots of wells of this carbon, like as a filter, kind of at the base where the groundwater is moving. So I actually was looking at Genesis today, and Time Magazine gave them the award for one of the inventions of the year in 2024 for this material to be able to treat PFAS in place. PFAS is like a really big problem in some military sites, lots of industrial sites. I mean, you guys will hear about it, and it's in a lot of different landfills. It's just kind of, and the state is working towards, working with, landfill owners, municipalities on how we're going to, take care of this. And so we're really going to be kind of pioneers in it a little bit. And so, planning staff has asked a lot of questions about what are we going to do with this contamination. Typically when we run through a landfill permitting process, we get local government approval first. They don't even want to look at what we're doing until we get local government approval first, and then they'll dig into it. But we've been talking to DEQ for months about, hey, this is proactively, we want to treat this. We're not going to wait until DEQ says you have to treat it. Right now, this is voluntary what we're doing, and we really want to get ahead of it. And we understand, when we see words like contamination, I mean, there's obviously concern, right? And so we want to be, on the forefront of treating it and maybe providing, an example to other sites. It's not cheap. It's cutting edge. It's a patented. I mean, it's expensive what we're doing, but we really feel like it's worth it. The other piece is we are lining the new section where the stream was. This will be a liner in there. We capture all the leachate, and that gets pre-treated and then goes to a wastewater treatment plant. So imagine this, the landfill's got wells all the way around it. That's why you say, all our waste has to be more than 200 feet from the property line so you can have a place for these wells, so you can test it as it's moving slowly. The advantage, what we have is it just groundwater plumes do move slow over time, so we have time to treat it in place and then also downstream. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so this is, I guess, a couple of questions here. So first, you might have already answered this, what is the current life left of Cell 2 right now that you're working?
Yeah, so there's two ways of looking at it. If the MRF is actively used, at least 10 more years. And that's, it kind of coincides with the time that we have to get off Holbrooks, which is before the end of 2034. This approval will, and not 100% factoring how much utilization of the MRF is involved, it's about a 40-year expansion. So as Brad mentioned, we're not really expanding the active cell area. We're filling in between the cell as a result of moving the creek. And I talked too long because the Mecklenburg County Water Quality and the Catawba River Keepers enthusiastically support the idea of moving the stream around the facility, because obviously it gives less opportunity for wastewater to hit that stream. So that'll benefit too.
Okay, so my follow-up question then is, assuming that you get your approvals and you move forward with Cell 3, is that going to, I guess, increase the volume or the capacity that you're handling in terms of traffic in and out on a day-to-day basis, or is that going to remain static? I'm just kind of, especially with respect to the traffic on Holbrooks.
Yeah, it's a great question. Of course, we'll be off Holbrooks. One of the conditions here would be that we'll have to come through Commerce Station. But our business is directly dependent on the local growth of the area. So the more hotels, the more houses you approve, the more waste that could come in. And we are basing our numbers kind of on historic data of the last handful of years, and it's a pretty high growth time. So maybe another way to answer this too, we will not have waste coming from faraway counties into this facility because there's hundreds of C&D facilities. It's economically impractical to haul that one container of 5 tons, let's say, of waste to another facility. to our facility.
You mentioned that cell 3 will actually be lined?
Yes, yes, so this is voluntary, so technically, current DEQ regulations would not require this to be lined. But we wanted to do this. I mean, one, I'm in a family business, 64 years old. We hope and pray to have a perpetual family business. We want to make sure we're custodians of our facilities. And of course, we are from this area, so it's just a higher priority. And it's just something that we're doing. Now, it could be that once we got to the actual heavy process of giving all this information to DEQ, they maybe would have required it, but it's not currently required by code. It's a voluntary.
All right, anything else? Not, we can entertain a motion.
I'll spit this one out. In considering the proposed rezoning R2509 Greenway Waste Expansion, the Planning Board recommends approval of the application with conditions as listed in Part 5 of the staff report. With the listed conditions, the application is consistent with policies LU 1.1, EOS 1, and EOS 5 of the Huntersville 2040 Community Plan. It is reasonable in the public interest to approve the rezoning plan because with the conditions attached, the proposed application is consistent with the development pattern of the adopted and recommended plans, is conditioned to limit access to Holbrooks Road for the future compatibility with the residential neighborhood, and it will mitigate the environmental challenges of the site with approved solutions.
Second.
Discussion, Lee, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, a great presentation and explanations and all. I think we all learned a lot tonight. This is something that's absolutely necessary. It's great that what you're doing along Holbrooks Road as you move through this expansion. So it makes total sense to me, and wish it all the luck.
Yeah, same. Yeah, doing the right thing, for Holbrook Road and the community and the greenways, and I appreciate the give back to the community, and wish you luck in the C&D industry.
And I like that you've considered Pottstown as well. Thank you for making sure that those residents are considered.
Yeah, I'll just echo what everyone else said. As somebody who drives Holbrooks every day, I appreciate the work you guys put into cleaning it up, on a weekly or daily basis. I think for the volume of commercial traffic that it gets, I think you guys do a great job with that, so that's appreciated. I thought the presentation was great. It was very cogent and helped me kind of understand the project a lot better. And I think in some instances, it's not so much about what the project entails as it is about who's behind it. So I feel good about knowing that you guys are handling a sensitive portion of our community in a very sensitive project in terms of the contamination and the environmental concerns and everything. So thank you for what you do.
I would just say it's a necessary evil. It's existing, and actually, hats off to you all for a creative solution that you basically add 4 decades of capacity without expanding the footprint. So I think that's a great win-win again, I believe that there will be improved water quality, and at the end of the day, after we get the traffic off of Holbrooks, it'll open up new residential development, which sounds like you guys are behind. So yeah, I support it.
Anyone else?
No, thank you for doing what you do. It's a journey. I'll see you at the next turn.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Unanimous? Thank you. Next item is very quick. We're going to welcome our new Planning Board alternate members, Jennifer Davis and Alyssa Miller, who are not here tonight, but they will be joining us when we need a replacement. So with that in mind, motion to adjourn.
Quick question. Is Jennifer Davis, has she served before?
Yeah.
That's what, okay.
We'll welcome her back.
I got another question on that. Do they replace in the event of a recusal or just an absence? Okay.
Okay, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Done. Thank you all.
Thank you, staff.